I'm Alex Baker, and I'm joined today by Adam Scher, aka Ship My Money DFS. Adam, how are you doing today?
Doing good. It's been a pretty good day. I got to watch Josh and Lofty make themselves absolutely miserable this morning on the strategy show, so that was a lot of fun. And then pretty excited for a 9-game slate tonight.
Yeah. Honestly, like if you missed the strategy show this morning, like what are you doing with your life? They did the one chip challenge. It was actually crazy because Josh lost the bet, so he did it, but then Lofty was just like, yo, if we get 500 likes, I'll do it too. And I guess he didn't realize how many people were watching the stream.
Yeah, what a company man being willing to do that for just 500 likes on a YouTube video.
Yeah, if this gets a lot of traction, we might have to do more challenges. I have personally eyed the Wendy's challenge where you have to eat every item off the menu, off the dollar menu.
You
Which
said
is
you have
actually,
done that?
well, no, that could be next on the
Okay, yeah,
channel
yeah.
because that's a good one. The challenge with that one is that you only get like two beverages. You get the Frosty and like a small drink, and then you have to eat like 6 food items. So
And the Frosty doesn't even count as a beverage. It's just more food basically in liquid form.
that's right. So if we get 2,000 likes on this video, maybe we can do that. I'm setting the bar high for this one. Anyway, I think tonight's a pretty interesting slate. Got a couple of big injuries. We have Damian Lillard out. We have Karl Anthony Towns out. So I'm seeing a lot of chalk today in Portland. They're playing the Blazers. Three of the most popular players of the slate are coming from that game. We got CJ McCollum, Carmelo Anthony, and Anthony Simons. So we have 3 plays down out of our 9. Who are the other 6?
Yeah, I mean, then you have the Boston game too. So, but between New Orleans, or sorry, between Portland and Boston, you're getting a lot of ownership.
Yeah. So that this Portland New Orleans game, probably the game of the night. Of course, we saved the best for last. Let's start off with another kind of the matchup of 2 NBA great teams here, Cleveland at Washington. Probably gonna be fighting it out in the conference finals here. Washington is a -6 favorite. The over/under is actually almost the highest of the night of 236. So actually, this could be a pretty good one for fantasy. Washington is projected for 121 points, and they got most of their guys back. So Rui Hachimura, he should be a full go. Bertans is back playing 30 minutes a game. Even Mo Wagner has had some big performances. So who are you looking to on this Wizards squad, and how does this rate among the games of the night?
This game's really interesting because like you said, it has a really high total. It's 2 completely just terrible defensive units. The thing that makes it tough from a DFS standpoint is that there's a lot of bodies healthy and playing minutes on both of these teams right now. You look at the Washington side, and we have a questionable Thomas Bryant and a questionable Jan Mahinmi. That's actually news that matters, because if they were both to be ruled out, I think Mo Wagner would look like a really good value. Even if, like, let's say Thomas Bryant is out and Mahinmi's in, and you assume that you're going to get basically a split of 48 minutes between Mahinmi and Wagner, they'd both look like pretty decent values. But if all 3 of those guys are in, then I expect you're basically getting 48 minutes at center split between the 3, and it makes none of them appealing. So that's news that I think does actually matter on this slate. Moving beyond those guys, I think that Bertans and Rui are both kind of just like secondary options here, where there are a lot of guys on the slate that I like more, but they're still in a good spot against Cleveland. The one guy that stands out the most to me is Bradley Beal. As usual, he projects as the highest scorer on Washington. I think one concern that I have is that with Washington being more or less fully healthy, you've seen even in competitive games recently, Beal kind of tracking towards like 34, 35 minutes instead of the 38 to 39 that he was playing with consistency earlier in the season. So that's a little bit of a concern. But even if I put him in for 34 minutes here, he looks like a pretty solid option at 9,400 on DraftKings.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, he's had incredible usage recently, 36% over the last 15. And even as some of these guys have gotten healthy, he's still at 37% over the last 5. So he's really been one of the best fantasy players as far as overall team usage recently. So Beal makes a good centerpiece on a night where, I mean, there's some obvious ones. He's probably not kind of a core play, but someone you can mix in. You mentioned Mo Wagner. Going to be a great play if Mahinmi and Bryan are out. If Bryan's in, maybe a 50-50 split. They seem to both want to give both of these guys some minutes. And then we got the point guard, kind of interesting with Ish Smith starting, but then they traded for Shabazz Napier, and his stats since coming in Washington are pretty decent. He's pretty cheap. Would you consider Smith or Napier here?
Yeah, I think that, in tournaments where I'm playing 150 lineups on DraftKings, I'll probably at least get to some Napier just because, I only have him projected for 20 minutes. I have the other 28 going to Smith. But at 3,900, even if you project 20 minutes for Napier, he comes out as a pretty decent value. And then he obviously does have upside for more minutes if he's just playing well or if Smith gets in foul trouble or, something weird happens. So I think Napier, as a large field tournament value at low ownership has some appeal, but certainly wouldn't be like the first value play I'm looking at tonight.
Yeah. So someone that kind of you can maybe have as a contrarian play. But one concern with the Wizards is how are they going to rebound the ball here? Because they're facing Andre Drummond. They're facing Kevin Love, Larry Nance Jr., Tristan Thompson. I mean, the Cavs have to be the best rebounding team in the league right now.
It's pretty ridiculous.
So I'm kind of projecting that to make none of them that appealing because Andre, of course, on the season he's at 33.9% rebounding, and that's his biggest fantasy category. But Kevin Love is at 29% over the year, so I'm expecting a big reduction in rebounds for both of them. Is that along the lines of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I still expect Drummond will get his. That's kind of just what he does, and I think it'll have a negative impact on Love. But when you're talking about Drummond now playing more minutes alongside someone like Kevin Love, as opposed to playing minutes alongside guys like Sekou Doumbouya and Markieff Morris and whoever else has been playing the four for Detroit this year, it should take a little bit away from his rebounding.
Yeah, so his price is pretty reasonable at 9,100 on DraftKings, 9,700 on FanDuel, but I'm expecting the production to take a hit. His usage has been high, but a lot of these games, I think Love was out one or two of them since he joined the Cavs. So Drummond is a much higher usage player than Tristan Thompson, who he's supplanted in the starting lineup. So I'm expecting Garland, Sexton, Osman, and Love all to have lower usage now, which makes none of them really that appealing, even though the matchup versus the Wiz is probably one of the best in the league. You adding on any Cavs in your DFS lineups tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They're all kind of just looking like secondary options to me, where because the matchup is so appealing, I do have some interest because, like, on average, what you described is obviously the case where Drummond's usage is going to kind of take usage away from these other guys, but in any one game, you're still going to get some games where like Sexton goes off or whatever. So I still think the matchup's appealing enough where they look like secondary options to me. But the one guy that I would point out here is Kevin Porter Jr., who he's only projected right now for like 4% ownership on DraftKings, and I don't think he's a safe option, but we did get some interesting coach speak from the new Cleveland coach, JB Bickerstaff, saying that they want to get Kevin Porter minutes at point guard moving forward, and that he really thinks he's an elite facilitator and playmaker, and that's something that they want to get out of him for the rest of the season. So I think that maybe you continue to see 30 to 32 minutes from Porter, but also that maybe you see a little bit more in the way of assist percentage for him this season when he's played without Sexton or Garland on the floor. He's just shy of an 18% assist percentage. So if nobody's going to go to him, I do think that as a value option, he's someone that gives you a pretty nice ceiling in tournaments if they do in fact change the way that they've been using him.
Yeah, it's a good point is that they can John Beeline, so they have a new coaching staff, and that could lead to unpredictable rotations here. Although you mentioned that nugget, that may indicate Kevin Porter is a good play, so that's something you take in mind. We're getting a lot of lock plays from the chat here. Kicks Good said Whiteside is a lock. Encore said lock Ennis. He's going to hit 87 threes tonight. If so, I mean, man, that'd be pretty good. But we did get some news just before the show that James Ennis is starting for Orlando. So because that's kind of the breaking news, and it's the next game, we'll start off there. Dallas at Orlando. Dallas, a 4.5 point favorite. What are you expecting now that the Magic starting lineup has changed with Ennis in there?
I'm not expecting, huge differences. Basically, what I did was you had been getting Wesley Iwundu starting and playing, 16 to 18 minutes, and Ennis playing 14 to 16 minutes off the bench. I went ahead and bumped Ennis up to like 26 minutes. I took all the minutes away from Gary Clark. I'm not sure exactly how it'll break down, but I think that Ennis starting makes it likely he gets into the mid 20s in minutes, and at 3K flat, he's going to look like a pretty good, point per dollar value. I still don't really know how. I don't think his ceiling's particularly high. He's not a really wide range of outcomes player. For the season, he spent most of the year in Philly, but a 15.8% usage rate. It's just not a high usage guy. You're still going to see most of the usage here going to every other starter except for him. So still not someone I'm excited about, but maybe gets into some lineups now just as a 3K punt.
Yeah, I think I'm not all that excited because, as you mentioned, Wes Iwundu was getting about 20 minutes starting, and I'm just interpreting this as Iwundu is going to be kind of out of the rotation, and Ennis is going to take those minutes because they do have DJ Augustine coming up off the injury report, who they're going to put in the rotation. I was kind of wondering who that take minutes away from, and it looks like it's Iwundu. So that's kind of what I'm approaching it as. Are you interested in any of the Orlando star players? I guess if you call them that, Fournier, Gordon, Vucevic, maybe a all-star narrative with the dunk contest?
I like Vucevic because we don't have him projected for much ownership here. He's reasonably priced. It's not a great, Dallas team defensively, but the big thing is that even though it's a 9-game slate, the opportunity cost at center tonight, I don't think is quite as high as it normally is on these slates. So getting to Vooch is a little bit easier. Normally he's someone that it seems like it's tough to get to because you have to roster him over like 3 different really, really, really good centers. That's not really the case tonight. He's priced around Whiteside, who obviously is in a good spot, but there's no Embiid, there's no Towns, there's nothing really else at the top. So I think if Vooch is going to be really low owned, he looks like a good tournament option.
Nice. On the Dallas side, of course, Orlando, one of the slowest teams in the league, so that doesn't bode well for many of the Mavs players. But Luka is an option every day that he plays, so I think that he's definitely someone to consider dumping some money on. How much Luka are you ending up with?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't crunched yet, but I'm expecting to get a lot of Luka because he's just the perfect example of how salary really dictates everything in DFS. It's not an appealing matchup in terms of pace. Orlando's one of the slowest teams. They're also one of the most efficient defensive teams, but that's clearly factored into the price here, where you have Luka at 10-6 on DraftKings and 10-3 on FanDuel. You're talking about someone who, in games with Porzingis this year, has averaged over 1.7 DraftKings points per minute with a 37.5% usage rate, leads the team in rebounding percentage, leads the team in assist percentage. So the salary being where it is makes the fact that the matchup's not appealing really not that important to me. And I think that with the value we have on the slate, it shouldn't be really difficult to get to that price point.
Yeah, he definitely stands out as kind of like the best fantasy player on the slate. And it's because there's so many good value plays, it could be an easy way to fill out your lineup. But the matchup is a point of concern for me. So any other Mavs you're looking at?
Not really. I mean, Porzingis would be, I guess, the next one in line as a secondary option, but he is a little more expensive than I would like. His rates do obviously come down when he plays alongside Luka. If I get to a little bit of Porzingis, it's fine, but the only like priority here for me is Luka.
For sure. Yeah, same here. Most of the other guys stand to lose a lot of production with Luka back in the lineup here. So it's going to take a little time for their salaries to adjust. And now we're entering the SuperDraft part of the slate. They have a 7:30 Eastern lock today. So after the 7 p.m. lock, we're going to spend some time talking about some SuperDraft strategy on the show. So stay tuned for that. Indianapolis at New York. Indianapolis is a 7-point favorite. We got some news over the break that Oladipo's minutes restriction is lifted. However, his price on DraftKings has gone up to compensate. He's at 6,400. The multiplier on SuperDraft though is 1.9, and on FanDuel he's 4,600. So, what kind of minutes are you expecting for Oladipo now that it's post All-Star break?
Yeah, I mean, they said that he's not on a minutes limit anymore, so still don't know exactly what that means, but I have him in for 33 minutes tonight. Kind of just a guess. Like, we've gotten him up to 29 minutes so far. I'd be kind of surprised if he just suddenly started playing 36 or 37 right away. But I think, getting north of 30 is pretty reasonable. The salary's not really that appealing to me at 6,400 on DraftKings, 26.8% usage rate, 16% assist percentage since coming back from injury, still struggling with efficiency. And, I do expect him to take a little while to get back to the level of play that we're used to getting from him. He was about a 1.15 DraftKings points per minute guy last year. So far this year, he's sub 0.8. I think that, projecting somewhere around like a fantasy point per minute is, makes sense kind of to factor in the fact that he's not going to keep playing as poorly as he has, but he's coming back from one of the most difficult injuries to recover from. So I think that it's pretty reasonable to expect him to take a while to get back to that level.
For sure, yeah. And the team is a little bit stronger this year with Malcolm Brogdon being the point guard, so the assist potential isn't quite as good. So I think on DraftKings, just an average play, but on FanDuel at 4,600, probably one of the best plays of the day. So I definitely look to him on FanDuel, especially assuming he's a shooting guard, and on SuperDraft. The rest of the team, TJ Warren is questionable. If Warren misses, I think that probably Jeremy Lamb moves into the starting lineup again, but I'm not certain about that. And Aaron Holiday would join the rotation, but I don't think it'd make much of a difference for Brogdon, Turner, Sabonis. What do you think? How do you think Warren will impact this game?
Yeah, I think that the biggest impact would just be on Jeremy Lamb, assuming that he does pick up the start if Warren's out. You have, 4,800 on DraftKings for Lamb. You have 4,200 on FanDuel. Still wouldn't be – it's not like he'd be like a lock value play or something, because you would still have him potentially competing for minutes with guys like Justin Holiday and Aaron Holiday potentially. But for usage with guys like Brogdon and Sabonis and Oladipo. But I think that it would – get Lamb enough minutes that he would start to become a reasonable value if he does get the start.
Nice. And then on the Knicks side, we got Elfrid Payton is out for this game, and then you got Frank Ntilikina Day. Am I right?
I really hope not.
Actually, Frank looks like he's not absurd play. First of all, I'll start with this. Do you think that Frank gets to start over Dennis Smith here?
I guess. Like, I really don't feel strongly at all about this, because if you go back and look at games that Payton has missed, you have to go back really far to get to a point where both of Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. were healthy in a game where Payton missed. And then even if you look at recent games and try and go by recent rotations, like the last game the Knicks played, you had you've had Dennis Smith Jr. as the primary backup to Payton, but in the last game that they played, Dennis Smith Jr. didn't even play in the second half, and Ntilikina did. So I really, really don't know. My guess would be Ntilikina, but it's not really a strong guess. And on top of that, I think that whoever does start, there's a decent chance that you get, like a 26-22 or 28-20 split between the two of them.
For sure, yeah. I think whoever is going to play better is going to get the bulk of the minutes here. I think Frank has the edge. The team has shown a preference for Ntilikina over Dennis Smith for whatever reason. It's definitely not because of Frank being a good fantasy player here, I'll tell you that. But he's 3,100 on DraftKings. Dennis Smith is 3,300. So one strategy you could use is you put Smith in your lineup and then swap to Frank if Smith doesn't get a start, but it is more likely Frank gets a start here. Both guys in the mix today, but not great plays. One guy I'm interested in, though, off the Knicks is RJ Barrett. He had worked his way back from an injury. I assume now he's fully healthy, and he's only $4,300 on FanDuel, which is another bargain price at shooting guard. So maybe not as good a play as Oladipo, but stands out as excellent value tonight. Do you think you're going to have any Barrett?
Yeah, I probably have a little bit, but I just don't really like the matchup here. It's a slow Indiana team. It's a pretty solid defensive team. Only a 103 total for the Knicks. Barrett, not the most productive player anyway. I have him in for 32 minutes here, but still just not really looking like a great value to me. I think that the only guy that I'm really interested in from the Knicks is Randall, who is playing huge minutes and gets a usage bump now that Marcus Morris is no longer on the team. Tough matchup for him too, but he's kind of the only guy that's looking particularly appealing to me.
For sure, yeah. He's had good usage without Morris on the floor this season. So I definitely think he could be a good play. And then let's not forget about Mo Harkless. But we actually just did get some. We got some new information here. Mahimi is in. Thomas Bryant is in. So the conclusion I'm reaching is I'm not probably going to play Mahimi, Wagner, or Bryant unless you have some reason to think that maybe Bryant gets a start and Wagner backs him up instead of Mahimi even playing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any reason to think that. I think that you probably, assuming Mahinmi starts, you probably get some pretty ugly mix or split of the minutes between the three, and it makes none of them appealing.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance Mahimi starts, but they have shown a preference for Bryant and Wagner at different points in the season because of the injuries earlier on. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mahimi gets phased out, but it's not necessarily interesting enough to really plan your game plan.
I think there's a good chance that you get like a Mahinmi start and he plays 6 minutes to start each half, and then you get like Brian or Wagner coming in, and then the other one coming in after them.
Yeah, that would be kind of lame, but we got 9 games. There's plenty of guys that are excellent plays tonight, so no reason to worry about it. Of course, I gotta do some plugs here. So when I started Awesemo.com, I looked around at different fantasy sites and I was like, man, there's so many good sources of projections out there. So why not offer a shoddy source of projections, for people who are sick of the good ones? But no, for real. Try to offer something up to help everyone's game. So you get access to some pro level projections if you sign up, and of course the ownership, the deep dive, Slack, and also something to point out is one opportunity to make some money in DFS is this weekend. XFL is back. We have an add-on. I think the ROI you can get on newer sports and also special events is pretty high. So make sure to check that out. Next game, we got Phoenix at Toronto. Phoenix has DeAndre Ayton coming back, and Aaron Baines is also coming back. So that's kind of making it a little bit tougher to get on any Suns tonight. But Booker, Oubre, they've been some good fantasy players recently. Do you see yourself having a significant amount of Suns tonight?
Yeah, I really like the pricing on Booker. It's obviously not an appealing matchup going against Toronto, but you're talking about 8,300 on FanDuel and 7,900 on DraftKings for Booker, who, consistently is playing 36 plus minutes in competitive games. Ayton coming back shouldn't have much of an impact on him. It's a relatively high usage guy in Ayton, but the offense is still going to run through Booker. He is no longer really being negatively impacted by the presence of Rubio like we were seeing earlier in the season. Over the last couple of months, he's played 24 games that Rubio has been in, and he has a 31.5% usage rate, 30% assist percentage. He's really just taken over offensively. So I think that the upside for him is a lot higher than his salary, dictates. So Booker looks really good. I think Oubre and Rubio are secondary options for me. It's tough to get to Ayton because obviously it's his first game back, so we don't know if he'll be on any sort of restriction. But on top of that, you also have Aaron Baines and Dario Saric back. So the conditions are different than they were before he went out with his injury, when we were seeing him play 38, 40 minutes in competitive games. I expect him to be back into like the 34 to 36 minute range now that Baines is back, and his price tag is still kind of where it was, when we were expecting 38 plus minutes.
Yeah, I think that it definitely is hard to predict that same kind of minutes in his first game after the injury. Just got a message from Rohit in the premium Slack here. He's asking Mikal Bridges tonight. I mean, this is a guy that has pretty low usage, assists, and rebounding isn't great. So I'm thinking not today, but what do you think?
I'm not really getting there either. There's just enough plays on this slate that I really like. And then Sarge being back kind of has the same effect, I think, on Bridges that Baines being back has on Ayton, where I have Bridges in for 32 minutes here, whereas, when they were more depleted, you could give him 36, 37, but the salaries come up, the matchup's not appealing. He's not a high usage guy, so I don't really see a reason to get there.
Yeah, if you really want to play Bridges, you might want to check out the Turbo slate. On the other side, Toronto, Norman Powell and Gasol are still out. McCaw is ill today, so he's not playing. The one guy that's really standing out to me salary-wise is Serge Ibaka. With Gasol out, he has averaged 35 minutes a game over the past 5. I'm not expecting quite that many, but given the amount of usage and boards and blocks he gets, pretty solid value. What are you thinking about Ibaka?
Yeah, I think he looks like the number one center when you factor in price. Like I had said earlier, there's not as much opportunity cost at the position because the top end isn't as strong as normal. And you're just getting a really, really good value, I think, on Ibaka, who is up to 19 games played now this season without Marc Gasol. Over those 19 games, he's averaged 32.4 minutes per game. He's averaged about 1.12 DraftKings points per minute. You mentioned, the playing time recently being up even a little bit higher than that. So I think that there's just a lot that looks really good for him. DeAndre Ayton certainly not known as a good defender either. So him being back doesn't have a negative impact on Ibaka. I think that he just really looks like a strong option in terms of his median projection, looks really good for his price, but he also has, pretty significant upside.
Yeah, so I think a core play that might go overlooked today, given that Portland and Boston are so appealing here. So Ibaka is definitely a guy to start your lineup off with. The other guys are a little bit harder to get to. I mean, Siakam's a little bit expensive, terrific player, but Lowry, hot off his all-star trolling, maybe a fan favorite tonight, but not standing out because Van Vliet and Lowry do hurt each other's production to some extent. Do you have any other Raptors today?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Lowry and Siakam are reasonable just because of how many minutes they play. We've seen really tight rotations from Nick Nurse. Now you have McCall doubtful, Powell's still out. So I'm expecting around 37 minutes from Lowry, around 36 or 37 from Siakam. They don't stand out as top plays at their positions, but and from Toronto, I would prioritize Ibaka over them. But I do think that they're cheap enough where they still do give you pretty nice upside for their salaries.
Yeah, I think the trouble I'm having getting to some of these Raptors is that there's so many just like lock plays tonight
Right.
that it's like once you start filling out your lineup and you got maybe 4 or 5 of the kind of mid-range chalk guys, it becomes hard to fit in some of the lesser.
Yeah, like it's pretty low probability to be paying more money for Pascal Siakam than for like a Jason Tatum or a Jaylen Brown at Ford. Or the same thing goes with like Kyle Lowry compared to CJ McCollum.
Yes. So just for reference here, I have my boom bust tool pulled up, and so we have Jaylen Brown. He has a 43% chance of being value plus 10, but when I bring up Pascal Siakam, he's about a 20% chance. So, well, they're different salaries, but it just shows like these chalk plays probably have about a twice as good chance of hitting than some of these lesser-owned guys to sprinkle in. So definitely consider that when you're building your lineups tonight. Next game is one of the big sources of the chalk. We got Boston and Minnesota. Minnesota is always a great matchup to begin with, but Karl Anthony Towns is out to boot. We have James Johnson starting at center most likely. So in addition, Kemba Walker's out, and that's making pretty much every Celtic look pretty good. But are there any particular ones you're really keying in on?
Yeah, I mean, you said it that all of them look good, but I think that Jaylen Brown at 5,900 on DraftKings really stands out. I'm not really sure why his price is there, but in games without Kemba this year, he's averaged 35 minutes per game. He actually has a 28% usage rate in those games. Overall this year, without Kemba on the floor, he's at 26.8% usage rate. He's averaged about a fantasy point per minute in the games without Kemba, and then you get a pace up spot here against Minnesota. So 5,700 for him on FanDuel, 5,900 on DraftKings. He really stands out. I think 5,400 for Smart on FanDuel looks like a really good price point. 5,900 on DraftKings is good, but not quite as good. And then Jason Tatum stands out as well. only 7,800 on DraftKings. He's 8,700 on FanDuel, so not quite as appealing there, but should get, a lot more offensive involvement without Kemba in the games this year that Kemba hasn't played. He has a 28.3% usage rate. So I think that, he looks like a good option as well.
Nice. Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, these guys stand out as really good options tonight, especially Brown on DraftKings. And then we got Tice starting at center. He fouls a ton, but he has averaged 28 minutes a game over the last few, which would indicate he's pretty good value tonight. Cantor, his price is real low. And then Wanamaker, he played about 25 minutes last game when Brown was out. Now with Kemba was out, the opportunity is even bigger, but probably pretty fringe guys given the context of the salary. Are you landing on any of these other guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tice and Cantor are decent tournament value guys, just because if Tice does stay out of foul trouble, you expect around 30 minutes from him. The fact that Minnesota has a small front court doesn't really hurt him as much as it could potentially hurt Cantor. But on the other hand, if Cantor does get his 17 or 18 minutes, he should have plenty of success against this front court. So I think that obviously you want to make sure you're not playing them in the same lineup, but the salaries are cheap enough on them where I think there's still upside, even though in terms of optimal plays, I would have them behind a few other centers.
Yeah, so maybe some Tice as a contrarian play. We got a message from Easy Money DFS in the chat. He says, "I don't Carmelo, sorry ass anymore. He's washed." So how would you compare maybe like Jaylen Brown and Tatum to Carmelo tonight? Because I think they're all pretty good spots.
I think they are, and I really like Carmelo, but I mean, I think that Brown is a better option. If you look at Melo's numbers without Lillard on the floor this year, he's like a 0.94 DraftKings points per minute guy, whereas in the games without Kemba, Jalen's at about 1 fantasy point per minute. I expect similar playing time from them. The matchups are appealing for both, so I would give the edge to Jalen. But while I do agree that Carmelo is washed, at least to some extent, but he's still a really good option tonight at his price point in his own right.
So anyone who was playing DFS right before the All-Star break probably remembers this night where Milwaukee was the chalk. Giannis was out, so everyone had Bledsoe, Middleton, and they just completely went out and did terribly. And that was because we didn't get enough likes on our video to make our predictions come true. So if you have any of these Boston guys that we're touting up here, make sure to click that thumbs up on the YouTube video so that we don't have a repeat and all the chalk plays end up bombing. All right, Minnesota on the other side, also a very appealing team. Karl Anthony Towns being out. Malik Beasley has had huge usage since getting in Minnesota, along with Juancho Hernan-Gomez getting a lot of playing time in Minnesota after getting traded. And then we got Russell, a fantasy stud, and without Karl Anthony Towns, pretty high usage player. What are you doing with these guys tonight?
I think that it's risky because you're talking about what should be a pretty inefficient offense against a pretty solid Boston defensive team. But obviously with Towns out, with Wiggins traded, there's a lot of opportunities for these guys. I think that D'Angelo Russell stands out because he should get pretty much every opportunity to have success. I expect, assuming this game's competitive, I expect them to play around 36 minutes. I think that the rates for him should probably be comparable to what he was putting up in Golden State when Curry was out, which was just shy of a 33% usage rate, around a 34% assist percentage. So, tough matchup, but I still think the price is pretty affordable on D'Angelo Russell. Salary has come up on most of the other Minnesota guys. I think that there's, maybe still a little bit of profit margin on someone like Malik Beasley if you're going to get 36 minutes out of him. Hernan-Gomez played huge minutes last game, but he doesn't have a track record at all of being a productive per minute player. So I wouldn't be as interested in him as I would in somebody like Beasley or James Johnson. But I think that Russell's my top guy for Minnesota, maybe looking at some secondary options like Beasley and Johnson. But with their pricing and matchup, I don't think that they're as appealing as some of these other teams that are missing key guys tonight.
So the reason I like Juancho Hernan-Gomez, I don't often box score watch, but this is one statistic that I was really keying in on is he got 12 rebounds in this game without Karl Anthony Towns. James Johnson only got 5. And Juancho Hernangomez's rebounding has been better than Johnson on the season. Obviously, the context has changed now. But some of these guys are going to get a lot more rebounds without Karl-Anthony Towns. So I think that is one category where I think Juancho and James Johnson stand to really benefit. So I think they're definitely going to be plays tonight. Probably not as good as some of the other chalk guys. And then the last guy I'm looking at here is Josh Okogie. He's been starting, and they're kind of suggesting he's part of the future of the Timberwolves here. Not a great fantasy producer, but he's cheap. Any Okogie tonight?
Probably not, just because he's, like you said, he's not a great fantasy producer. Like, he's someone that looks like a pretty solid value in terms of medium projection. Like at 4,300 on DraftKings, I think he projects for around 23, 24 fantasy points. But it's really tough for him to give you enough raw points that you actually really want him in tournaments. He's a low usage guy, and he's not someone that I expect to get a bunch more usage even with the injuries, because I expect that usage to go to guys like D'Angelo Russell and Malik Beasley. So I don't think I'll get too much Okogie.
Yeah, definitely not. A guy that really stands out in any particular stat. So we've talked about some good studs so far. We had Luka, we had D'Angelo Russell, Tatum. You can actually win a month of Awesemo Premium if you guess the player with the most fantasy points tonight. If you're interested, check out our Twitter account. It's the pinned tweet on Awesemo NBA. But what do you think? Who would be your pick if you're playing a contest like this, where if you get the answer right, you're in a basically a lotto with everyone else who got it. So who would be kind of a sneakier pick to be the top scorer in play tonight?
Probably would want to stay away from Portland and Boston for ownership reasons. Probably would go away from Luka because that's obvious that he's going to be the top projected guy. I'd probably look to. I think someone like a Bradley Beal or like a Jokic or something would be a good bet. Because obviously people are going to look to like Luka, Davis, LeBron, or to one of the Portland guys. So I think that maybe just going completely off the board to someone that could play big minutes and score a ton of points like Beal.
Nice. I like Beal. That's a good call. I mean, the Wizards, not the most popular team either. I think that people like to pick their favorite player. So that'd be a good pick if you want to win that free month. So head over to Awesemo NBA on Twitter if you're interested in that. Next game, we got Denver at Oklahoma City. A really competitive game. -1 in favor of Oklahoma. Low total. And for Denver, we have Mason Plumlee back. We have Michael Porter Jr. back. I noticed Jokic's minutes went up a lot with Plumlee out. So I'm expecting everybody's minutes to kind of come back to earth here. And as a result, I'm not lining on any Nuggets. But do you think there's any diamonds in the rough here?
Not really. I'm with you. I think that Denver's one of the least appealing teams on the slate just because of the team getting fully healthy, with the exception of Barton being questionable. But even if he's out, you're talking about more minutes for pretty useless guys for the most part, like Torrey Craig. So Plumlee being back is a concern for me with Jokic. Obviously Jokic is really good on a per minute basis, but Plumlee is just someone that it's tough to project him for 10 or 11 minutes in a game. And I don't think it's a coincidence that as soon as he went out is when we started seeing Jokic's minutes really skyrocket. So if you put Jokic back to like 33, 34 minutes, it's tough for me to get there. It's a situation where you're getting, basically a fully healthy team now and kind of elevated price points on most of the guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think that pretty low interest in fantasy. On the other side, though, Oklahoma City, a little bit better as far as pricing goes. Everyone's healthy for them as well, save Andre Roberson. And no one's really standing out to me a ton, except one of my top pump plays of the slate is on the Thunder here, Nerlens Noel. For some reason, the last 2 games, I think he got in foul trouble one game, and he just got benched in another. But he's 3K on DraftKings, and this is a guy who gets more than a point a minute. Is that too thin, or are you thinking maybe sprinkle one tonight?
No, I think I'll get to some also because, like you said, the minutes have been down the last couple of games, but it was foul trouble in the first game. And then in the second game, it was against New Orleans. And you were getting, basically when he got benched, they were running a little bit of Jackson Hayes, but mostly it was Zion and McCollum in the front court. which is just a really awkward matchup for someone like Nerlens Noel. Now you're talking about Nikola Jokic and Mason Plumlee playing 48 minutes at center. So I fully expect that, barring foul trouble or something, you get back to 48 minutes combined between Adams and Noel. And, even if I give Noel like 17 minutes, he projects for around 6x, which 18 points, obviously is not really useful in tournaments. But if Adams gets in foul trouble or Noel just gets a few more minutes than we're expecting, he starts to look like a really good value. So I think that both of the centers are interesting from OKC because obviously you have Noel at the flat minimum, but you also have Steven Adams at only 5,500 on DraftKings. His minutes have been trending back up. He's played at least 28 minutes in 5 straight after kind of seeing his minutes limited when he came back from injury. But I would expect Oklahoma City to want him to play towards the top of his minutes range as well because of Jokic. And, the fact that you have a really high usage center on Denver. I went back and looked. I was just kind of interested to see if Adams' minutes had changed or been affected by this matchup in the past. He's played against Jokic 8 times since the start of the 2017 season. He's averaged a little over 33 minutes per game, whereas overall, over that stretch, he's averaged 31 minutes per game. So I think that it's reasonable to maybe expect an extra minute or two to go to Adams than he normally gets, which at that salary and with a pretty weak center position, I think is appealing.
Definitely, yeah. And with the extra week to kind of recover, he should be back to full strength here. So Adams could be an interesting sneaky play. I think Nerlens Noel, I'm looking at his ownership in our latest runner projections, which was only 5 minutes ago. So make sure to check out the update there. He's only 4% owned. And Anthony Simons, another value play tonight, is 25%. So one of my favorite strategies in GPPs is you spend down or you spend up at a position where everyone else is doing the opposite. And then you end up with a whole different kind of lineup construction compared to the field. So that would be one of my inclinations tonight. Between Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Gallinari, do you have much of these guys, or do they just kind of maybe in a few lineups?
Yeah, just kind of looking like secondary options here. I think that the pricing is reasonable enough where you can use them as contrarian plays. If in your chalkier lineups, they certainly give you upside at their prices. But if I'm already contrarian within a lineup or contrarian enough, to where I don't need to keep getting low owned guys, there's certainly a lot of options that I think are higher probability plays.
Yeah, same. Next game, Spurs at Utah. Utah's a -7 favorite. Utah's not a very good matchup for teams to go against, but I do notice that DeMar DeRozan, he's 6,800 on DraftKings, 7,200 on FanDuel, and that's pretty appealing despite a tough matchup. Is he going to be one of your core plays tonight?
I don't think he'll be a core play just because I do think it's a good price point, but I think that relative to other guys on the slate, he still doesn't stand out quite as much because of the matchup against Utah. You look at other forward options like Jaylen Brown, who's even less expensive. You look at CJ McCollum as a guard option, who obviously I think projects even better. Even Donovan Mitchell on the other side of this game at 6,900, I think is a little bit better than DeRozan.
Yeah. I think he's great, definitely a great price, and it'll be interesting to see how the ownership shakes out. But this is he's about 5 points above value on DraftKings, so that would stand out as a pretty good play. But as you mentioned, in the context of the slate, that might not be enough. Aldridge, the other fantasy stud on the Spurs, pretty reasonable price at 7,100, but not really standing out a ton. Do you think you'll have any Aldridge?
Probably not. Again, it's just that you start comparing him. The first thing that comes to mind is the Boston forwards, whether it's Brown or Tatum or even Gordon Hayward. I think all look a little bit better. Then you talk about Carmelo Anthony. Obviously, we haven't gotten to that game, but also, Zion and Brandon Ingram. There's just so many forward options that I really, really like tonight.
Nice. Yeah, so Utah is the more appealing side. The Spurs have been pretty weak defensively this year. Donovan Mitchell without Conley should get a bump. Joe Ingles, he stands to get a lot more assists without Conley in the rotation. And then Royce O'Neal, he's only 3,300, and that's pretty good for a guy that probably would play more than 30 minutes with Conley out. So how do these guys compare to some of the studs on the slate?
Yeah, I think that, Conley being out does open some stuff up here. Mitchell, number one, looks good to me. And it's not even really because Conley is out. Mitchell's numbers this year are pretty much the same, whether Conley's on the floor or not. It's just that you're talking about getting 35, 36 minutes from Donovan Mitchell against a San Antonio team that's not anything special defensively. So I think Mitchell looks really good. Conley's absence potentially opens up some minutes for Jordan Clarkson, but he did still only play 25 minutes last game without Conley. He has the upside to get to like 28, 30 minutes, but still a kind of fringe play for me. Ingles, kind of the same thing, does get more assist opportunities, but he's also still not a high usage guy. I would expect him to have like the 5th or 6th highest usage rate in any given game for Utah. So a decent salary on him, but nothing that I'm really in love with. I think that Mitchell's the guy that really stands out from Utah.
For sure. Mitchell, great play tonight. Although we've been talking about a lot of great plays, so I think that he's probably one of the good ones, but not one of the best.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Memphis, LA. Memphis is one of the only teams on the back-to-back tonight. Last night, DeAnthony Melton had a GPP winning performance. Joe Val played 20 minutes or something. But this is one of the toughest matchups in the NBA versus the Lakers, so I'm not really landing on any Grizzlies. Do you see anyone worth consideration tonight?
No, I don't think it's really that appealing either. It is a tough matchup against the Lakers. The pricing is okay, but there's just so many good options on this slate. I guess it's worth mentioning DeAnthony Melton is still only 4K. I think that there's still plenty of risk with him. We've seen for the most part him and Dylan Brooks not playing much alongside each other, and Dylan Brooks is a pretty decent option. It's not like he's always going to give up minutes to Melton. So I think Melton looks like the most appealing price point from Memphis, but it's still not really that appealing to me.
Yeah, the thing I like about Melton is that they seem to run the best 2 out of 3 of Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks, and Melton to close the game, and that gives Melton a little bit of upside. I don't think the plan is for Kyle Anderson to play a lot of minutes, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much because we got some better games here. We got this note: Frank Ntilikina is likely to start. That confirms what we were thinking earlier.
Also, Melton only played 23 minutes last night. I kind of assumed he had gotten more because of his final performance, but still only 23 minutes there.
Yeah, he's averaged 24 in his last 5 games, though. So the minutes weren't quite there, but the potential is still decent. On the Lakers, LeBron and Anthony Davis certainly are some good ways to soak up some salary tonight. The blowout concern is present, and we've been seeing a lot of blowouts recently. So maybe that is present in people's minds. But how do you rate LeBron and AD to maybe some of the other studs on the slate?
I have them slightly behind Luka. Like LeBron and Luka, basically the same price point on DraftKings. $100 separates them, and LeBron this year in games that Davis has played has averaged 1.58 DraftKings points per minute, whereas Luka's a little over 1.7 in his games with Porzingis. But it's obviously a more appealing spot for LeBron because Memphis is one of the faster teams in the league. They've been pretty decent defensively of late, but the extra possessions is pretty appealing. So I have Luka a couple points ahead of LeBron. I think that it's certainly a situation where if there ends up being a sizable ownership gap between the two, I would just prefer the lowest owned one. But right now they project pretty similarly in ownership. Davis is actually projected to be the highest owned out of the group. He's a little bit less expensive than James or Luka, but I still think that with how close their pricing is on DraftKings, Luka, the most expensive, only 700 more than Davis. I still would rather get to LeBron or Luka, especially if they're going to be lower owned.
Yeah, so my general rule of thumb is if you have several guys that are all kind of rating out the same for you, you go for the lowest owned one. And if you're not a member, make sure to use the code Deeper Dive to get 50% off your first weekly package here. And then you can get access to stuff like the ownership projections. We just got an update not too long ago, and Luka is at 13.8%. AD you mentioned is the highest owned at 18, and LeBron's 14.5. So that would indicate maybe Luka is the more contrarian option. The rest of the team, JaVale McGee somehow is only 3,300 on DraftKings. That kind of stands out as maybe a punt play, but not as good as New Orleans Noel. But maybe that's one that doesn't have enough variance because it seems like he never plays more than maybe like 20 minutes. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing because he projects similarly from a medium projection standpoint to Noel. But the problem that you run into with McGee compared to Noel is that Noel basically just has Steven Adams ahead of him, where if Adams gets in foul trouble or plays poorly or any number of kind of fluky things happen, Noel can really easily get more minutes. Whereas McGee is splitting minutes three ways at center with Dwight Howard and more importantly Anthony Davis. So it's not like you just have Dwight Howard get in foul trouble and JaVale McGee suddenly plays 24 minutes. It's really, really tough for him to get to that top end of minutes, whereas it's a little bit easier for Noel.
Yeah, definitely. I think that really is a factor in GPPs, and that's something I can incorporate in my boom bust tool. So make sure to check that out. That's going to make a guy like McGee have a lower ceiling than Noel. Last game of the night, we got 8 minutes here. It's probably one of the better ones. New Orleans at Portland. We'll start with Portland because Damian Lillard is out. I honestly don't see any reason not to have CJ McCollum in your lineup because his usage goes up about 25% with Lillard out. His assists go up even more. He goes from 16% to 26%. And I assume they're going to play him even more minutes than normal just because they usually want Lillard or McCollum on the floor. So he's landing as by far the top player of the slate for me. But what do you make of the situation?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's sometimes it can be a little bit misleading when you just look at like on-off numbers for one player because you're getting like a bunch of minutes from McCollum against the second unit and stuff. But even if you go back and look, since the start of the 2017 season, he's played 12 games where Lillard didn't play. He's averaged 1.22 DraftKings points per minute, 32.8% usage rate, 27% assist percentage. This season, he's of course been a lot more productive when Lillard's not on the floor. There, and the salary hasn't really moved, so you should get a ton of minutes. They should be more productive on average than he normally is, and he's priced for his normal role. And then on top of that, you're getting a fast-paced Pelicans team and what really should just be a high-scoring game. So I don't really see any reasons to be not rostering CJ McCollum.
Yeah, probably the lack of the day for sure. I'm probably going to have him 100% here. We got a note from Cheetah in chat. He says, eat the chip. We also got a note from our old pal, EMAC. And he's wondering, Adam, what's your NHL line today?
Haven't made those yet.
Adam, well, congrats on your 50K the other night, the last night of All-Star break. I like your tweet. Leaving it for the NHL guys from there forward. All right, so how does Lillard being out affect the rest of the Trailblazers roster here?
So I think that we kind of mentioned Melo earlier, but his per minute production with Lillard on and off this year, he goes from 0.82 DraftKings points per minute to 0.94, which while that it's a nice bump, but you're still not talking about like slate breaking production. The thing that really stands out is that his usage rate with Lillard is 20.2%, and without him, it's up over 28%. So the relatively minor increase in per minute production goes to the fact that Melo is still not really efficient, but the increase in usage shows that the ceiling gets a lot higher because obviously you're taking a lot of shots away with Lillard being out. And when you look at outside of CJ McCollum, Trevor Ariza is not a super high usage guy. Whiteside's not a really high usage guy, and most of his stuff is coming off of putbacks and everything. Whoever fills in between Gary Trent and Anthony Simons isn't a really high usage guy, so a lot more opportunities for Melo to put up a really good game.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, the usage is probably more reliable number than the scoring because there is a lot of variance in how people shoot from game to game. So I think that we know he's an ISO player and he's going to get more shots with Lillard out. I think you mentioned an important point here. Between Simons and Trent, we're not going to know who's starting because this is the late game when we build our lineups, and we probably won't be able to late swap later to a significant impact. So who do you think is going to start with Simons or Trent? Because each one started once in games where Lillard was out.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close to a coin flip. I think it's a lot closer than it seems like the field thinks that it is. You mentioned Lillard's missed 2 games this year. Simon started the first one, played 36 minutes. Trent started the second one. Simon's only played about 18 minutes. And in most games recently, you had kind of been seeing Trent ahead of Simons, but in the most recent game, Simons played, I think 27 minutes while Trent played like 17 or 18. So my guess is that Simons starts, but I don't think it's nearly as much a foregone conclusion as it seems like other people do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the most predictive stat here is how many minutes they've been playing recently. Over the last 5 games, Trent has averaged 27 minutes. Simons has averaged 16. So I'm expecting Trent to see more minutes. And the easiest way for the Trailblazers to do that is he starts. And then I'm expecting Simons to step into this 27 minutes a game Trent was playing in the rotation. That's landing Simons as a good play, but not a essential one for me. And I see he's the second highest owned player in the slate. So what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll obviously be getting to him because he's really, really cheap. And I think it's worth mentioning that there's like a really big gap on DraftKings between the owner or the pricing. Trent's 4,400 and Simons is 3,500. Even if Trent starts, he's kind of just like a mediocre value, I think. Whereas if you're going to get 30 plus minutes from Simons, he'd be a good value. On FanDuel, they're both really expensive to where I think they're both kind of just secondary options anyway. But I expect that I'll be getting to Simons as a value. If his ownership holds at 39%, I think that I'll end up under that.
Yeah, that could be a position where you could take a stand and maybe make a contrarian lineup by fading Simons. The other guy I've been seeing a lot of chatter about is Whiteside, but I'm not expecting a lot of impact from Lillard being out. Do you see any reason why he would really benefit from that?
Yeah, I don't think he really benefits from Lillard. I don't think he's hurt by Lillard being out. I don't think it really changes much for him. We don't have a big sample size of him playing without Lillard this season. He's only played 100 minutes without him on the floor, but his rates have been about the same. His production's been about the same, and that makes sense because it's not like Lillard's going to have a big impact one way or the other on his rebounding, and you're not going to start like running plays for Hassan Whiteside offensively. It's just not his game. So I think that he's a good play just kind of on his own merits because you're talking about 34 plus minutes in a fast-paced game. He was in a lot of foul trouble against New Orleans last game, so that kind of kept his numbers in check if you're game log watching. But yeah, I think he's still a good option, but I still would rather like pay down at center, I think, and be getting to someone like Serge Ibaka. I think also that if he's going to be 14% owned, then Vooch is like 4% owned. I don't think there's a really big difference between the two in terms of production.
Yeah, for sure. I think that might be overrated, the impact that Lillard being out has on Whiteside. Finally, Pelicans fast. We got 1 minute. Who are your plays on the Pelicans?
Love Zion here. Really like Zion a lot. Really like Brandon Ingram a lot. Ingram, coming back. I think that you should see pretty normal run from him in the mid 30s. He's just really cheap. In the games that he's played with Zion, they played 8 games together. Ingram's got a usage rate up over 26%, and I think it's a good matchup against Portland. And I think it's an extremely good matchup for Zion too. In that last game, it really showcased like how much of a matchup nightmare Zion is. Whether they put Whiteside on him or tried to put Melo on him, he just they don't have an answer for him in the front court. And then on top of that, since the start of January, Portland's allowed the most offensive rebounds per game by 1.2 rebounds more than the next closest team. Zion so far is 8th in the NBA in offensive rebounds per game since coming back from injury. So I think in a lot of ways it just sets up as a great matchup for Zion.
Yeah, the price is high though. I think this one for me is too many cooks in the kitchen. So I think the other spots like Portland and Boston, where there's some star players out, much more appealing here. But we got Spags and Josh coming up. If Josh managed to survive his chip challenge here, thanks SuperDraft for sponsoring the show. Thanks you guys all for watching, and Adam for the great strategy here. And stay tuned for Live Before Lock.
guys. It should be starting up now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Awesemo.com live before lock show. Got ourselves 9 games today and a lot of fun things to talk about basketball-wise and otherwise. You'll learn in a second. I'm Chris Spags, joined by the hero of this morning show, one of the heroes. Full credit to Lofty as well. The Chubster Josh Engelman, fresh off of the one chip challenge. How are you feeling, Josh? Everybody saw you last and you were looking pretty dire, tweeting some bathroom selfies, which I found more sexy than hurtful. But go on, Josh. How are you feeling?
They were hurtful to me. I've been better. I feel better now. The hour immediately following the chip was probably the worst experience of my life. I spent it thinking I was going to die, thinking that I was going to throw up, which scared me to no end. I cried a bit on the floor of my bedroom. I sweated through the hoodie that I was wearing previous to that. It was just really bad. In hindsight, I should have eaten something prior to the show. The Carolina Reaper water coffee combo that just laid in my stomach didn't help. When I would lay down, I realized that it was just flattening out the hot molten water that was in my stomach and just touching different parts of my stomach. That sucked. It was just pretty bad, clear across the board. I eventually made my way to Burger King, got myself a cheeseburger and a milkshake. That seemed to extinguish the fire a bit. Now it's starting to get hot again. Not the same sort of uncomfortable hot that I had before, but it's just not a great day. It's just not a great day.
Well, you know what, Josh? I know one thing that'll cheer you up is that it is a super draft day here on the Awesemo YouTube channel. That means we're going a half hour longer. And that means also that the viewers out there, which is what Josh cares about the most, is his colon is inflamed, burning like a ring of fire, like a Johnny Cash song. But the thing that brings Josh solace is knowing that you guys can go there right now. Go to superdraft.io or download SuperDraft in the App Store. If you use the promo code Awesemo10, you get $10 free. Don't even have to deposit. That $10 goes free to you. If you do deposit on our $100, you get yourself $20 free. If you deposit over $100, you get $30 free. And that's the most pertinent option for you because they have another big tournament, $5K up top. It's going to be smaller, a little bit easier to fill today. So there may not be overlay. Either way, we are doing the extra half hour today for Super Draft. So get in there right now, sign up. We'll be talking about a lot here over the next hour. Then that last half hour, we're going Super Draft exclusive, just talking about it, basically building a lineup for you guys based off of Josh's projections, as well as Awesemo's projections. So go check them out right now at superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo10.
You know what's awesome? When you open up your Facebook and get a colon cancer ad.
They know. The targeting is amazing sometimes. Really,
I don't have to worry about that now. I burned it clear out of my body. I'm going to excrete it in the next day.
I don't think that's how colon cancer works, my friend.
If you ate what I ate, you might disagree.
You've made me laugh so hard. I appreciate you. So you know what, Josh? I'm going to ask you a question. Also, guys, hit the like button, please, because I think we could all use the positive energy right now. Josh, more than anybody, I always appreciate it as well. But Josh, last few shows we've had some chaos breaking loose. Pretty much, I think the last 4 or 5 shows we've had something big going on. So I'll ask you this question up top here. What is the thing right now, the news item that you could potentially get, just, whatever it may be, that would ruin what you've prepped for all day today? Because I just want to be ready because everything seems like smooth sailing right now. And we just know there's going to be something bad because that's our luck.
I'm feeling like eating that chip has bought me some goodwill. I don't. DeMar DeRozan being out would be unappealing to me right now. And it would be a relatively easy fix, but that would be not appealing.
That is fair. I think for me, it would be Malik Beasley or CJ McCollum somehow just not getting in. I think that's the one that I would be the most crestfallen about if McCollum were not in. Now let's talk about why, Josh, and I'm curious to see what your thoughts are. Awesemo said it on the deeper dive beforehand, but I do think that McCollum, really one of the few guys that we've had recently in one of these spots where I don't know how you don't get 90 to 100% of him. Priced where he is on both sides today, he looks great. Does get his usage rate bumped up to over 32% when Damian Lillard's off the floor. McCollum also gets a boost in assist rate that's noteworthy. He basically becomes a dime store version of Damian Lillard when Lillard is on the floor. So how much McCollum do you think you're going to have today on all the sites?
Not nearly as much as you would guess, although he's still my second most owned guy on DraftKings. I'm actually slightly under the field on FanDuel from where we have him. So I have 37% on FanDuel right now and 60 on DraftKings. So it's not as if I don't have a lot, but I don't have nearly as much as probably most would have guessed.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I would have thought he'd be one of your guys you would just put in and kind of set in and forget it. I mean, looking at Awesemo's projection for him, Awesemo has him at just a hair under 50 points projected on DK. Going against New Orleans, really one of the better possible matchups. Drew Holiday, I think people worry about individual defense a little bit more than they probably should. Maybe he limits him some way, but I don't think you see the full Drew Holiday experiences you might see on Lillard. But are you comfortable with that with McCollum? I mean, obviously you are because that's how you're playing it, but what is the reason why you don't feel like he's one of the guys you'd load up on?
So I have a wildly let's put this out there right now. I have a wildly different projection for CJ McCollum than Alex does by 6.5 points. So First and foremost, there's that. That should explain a lot of it. I think the fact that I'm getting to 60% on DraftKings while still being 6 points shy is interesting to say the least, because he would be in every lineup if I gave him 6 additional points right now. I feel like I have him projected like relatively realistically. This season with Lillard off, we could pretty much go back as far as you would like, but I think that it matters that Carmelo Anthony is there. But this season with him off, 1.2 FanDuel points per minute. If I look to see what I have him at for today, 1.12. I don't find it to be all that problematic. I do think it's a mildly tough matchup. I'm only giving him 36 minutes. I believe Alex has him at 37, so that is at least, another point in that direction. Hasn't been playing very well as of late. Has been basically a slightly less than point per minute guy in my model now. I don't want to get too much, and I'm kind of perfectly okay with like 60-ish% on DraftKings.
Are you getting a more of another trailblazer because you're not getting McCollum? Like, are you getting Melo or Anthony Simons or any of these guys? Or is it just you're not as interested in the Blazers as probably everybody else will be today?
Yeah, like I've got 37% Simons. I've got, I'm talking DraftKings now. 37% Simons. I just missed another name. It's hard to see today. 31% Melo. So I'm basically with the field there. I've got 23% Gary Trent. I have no problem getting to these guys. 23% Ariza. So I'm getting to everything from the Blazers. It's not just, a lock button CJ. But I mean, 60% my second most owned guy. It's not as if I'm walking off of him or anything like that.
Okay, no, that seems fair. Yeah, for me, McCollum is going to be the guy I'm most overexposed to, though he is chalky as can be. And, I think on DraftKings, the dual position eligibility, like point guard, a position I'm not dying for today overall. A lot of shooting guards that I do like, but yeah, I don't know. I feel more bullish on McCollum, and I think having Awesemo agree gave me a little bit more confidence in going nuts on him. But now you're giving me that doubt. Now I wish he were ruled out so I could remake 75 lineups.
No, I mean it's not like I should be instilling doubt or anything. I'd be much more likely to get a lot more than to not be on him at all. I was a little surprised to see it come in at 60 to begin with. I think that's just fine. I like a lot of guys in the 6K range, and it's more that I'm just sort of mixing and matching those guys than it is like taking one individual stand.
That is fair. Also, I just find this amusing because it's a woman. I assume it's not one of the spam accounts that I just banned one from our YouTube channel. It's spamming porn by using all the chats that Josh and I talk about this. Very strange, creeps me out every time it happens. But Tanya Elise Reed saying, Josh, you guys need to love yourselves more. I feel sorry for your booty tonight with a ghost, a poop emoji, and a devil.
I feel pretty bad for my booty tonight too. I'm really afraid to go to sleep. I'm anxious to see what my sleeping heart rate is. That's something I track every single night. So I'm pretty curious to see if it's elevated, which I can only imagine it will be.
And also, hey, shout out James Morrison giving a super chat saying Josh legit handled the challenge better than Laffy. Yeah, Laffy did get a little more dramatic in the moment, but you're a seasoned veteran of this. So I feel like that's the reason why you get a little bit of a boost on Laffy.
I think we both handled it pretty well. I certainly didn't handle it better once the camera was off.
Let's talk about the rest of the Blazers here. I mean, you mentioned some of the other guys you're getting. How are you feeling about Carmelo? Because he does get a usage bump, a pretty appreciable usage bump without both Lillard and for me, I ran without Lillard and Kent Bazemore on the floor this year just because I felt like that was a little more material than it seemed like it would have been otherwise. I think Melo's a strong play on DraftKings. I'm not sure about his on FanDuel as much, but I mean, certainly a variable player, but a guy who's going to get more looks and a guy who should be as fresh as an older player can be after the All-Star break. How are you feeling about Melo? Is he worth it for you or no?
For sure. I'm basically neutral to the field on DraftKings, so I have 30%. Happy to have him. On FanDuel, though, he is currently my most exposed small forward, 46%. He's also chalk there, 4,900. Not really a tough sell in that spot.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So one thing I'm not on today, really, or one play I'm not on, which does seem like ownership wise, there are going to be more people on. Hassan Whiteside, his DraftKings price, I just don't see why you would go there. I'm more into Andre Drummond at a similar price point. And maybe that's a bit of a fool's errand given that people aren't going to be owning him today, but I still believe in him and his ability to get the minutes back that he lost the last time that the Cavs played. But are you getting any Whiteside at all? Because it does seem like he's going to be fairly owned on DraftKings. Not chalky, really, but still over 15%, which is a lot for the centers today.
I have absolutely zero on DraftKings, which is mildly scary. I think it's even scarier that I have 20% on FanDuel where we're projecting 40% ownership.
Yeah, the FanDuel price does seem a little more logical there, but I guess what is your logic for your stances there? Because I'm with you. I also have no Whiteside. I might have like one lineup with Whiteside today, but really didn't see the need on DraftKings. Again, on FanDuel, that price does look better, but still some center options out there. So what's the rationale behind both sides?
Right now, I'm basically just flip-flopping his exposure with Rudy Gobert's on FanDuel. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I feel like I have a decent projection on him, and Whiteside grades out as my my number one center. But you can only play one, and just the way that my crunches are breaking out, I'm not using him with any sort of like primary situation. Like I've got some Steven Adams, I've got a very tiny amount of Miles Turner. I've got a little bit of Derek Favors at 5,100, so I'm just kind of running out of exposure to dole out. I'm 2x the field on Jokic. He's only at 6% ownership. I have 11, so it's just kind of coming away from Whiteside. I'm anxious to see where that ownership ends up as we get to lock.
Yeah, I think for me, I certainly get the ownership more on FanDuel. We talked about it before with Whiteside, actually in this exact matchup with the Pelicans where that game was a blowout and he actually did play fairly well, but I generally don't love Whiteside when games are a little too fast. I'd like him to be able to kind of get into position to do those Whiteside things. And for me, that is a contributing factor, but really the price on DraftKings is just not appealing at all. In this game, though, one guy I'm curious your thoughts about, Brandon Ingram, just looks really low priced for me. Ownership on him, not crazy either, under 20% projected ownership on DraftKings. And he really hasn't lost a ton of usage to Zion. They've done a good job staggering minutes away. But also, Ingram does dominate the ball a little bit more than Zion when they're on the court together, or at least enough where I feel comfortable. I feel like Drew Holiday's taking the bigger haircut and usage there. Are you getting Ingram today? Is he worth exposure for you on DraftKings in particular, but I guess FanDuel as well?
Brandon Ingram is my third most exposed player. I have 54% Brandon Ingram as of right now. Quite a bit ahead of the field. On FanDuel, I don't have any. He is 8,400.
Okay, yeah. The price on FanDuel, I think, now that you've said that out loud, that does not sound like the best price. On DraftKings, though, under 7K, I mean, again, he was out before the break, but he did get back into the All-Star game itself, so one would assume he's going to be a full go today. I just don't see any reason to not take Ingram at his price point. I mean, like I like Tatum, I like some of the other guys at small forward, but Ingram dual position eligibility, just a nice rate on him. Is he one of you guys you're most over the field on or no?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, if projections hold and he's at 18% and I have 54, that's about as big as it's going to get. Although he's not the guy that I am most over the field on. I guess I could say that.
I guess let's tease that for a second because I want to jump over to Zion Williamson real fast because his ownership less than Ingram, about half as much as Ingram, but these guys do pull away from each other enough where I think you consider Zion a pivot to any Ingram ownership. I still think those guys can get there in concert, but they haven't had meaningfully exceeding value days together so far. But how are you feeling about Zion today? His price is up, and we saw some of the monster upside he has without Ingram. Do you think he gets that upside today with Ingram back?
I have him in one lineup right now on DraftKings. I've been relatively low on him so far this season. I do have 18% on FanDuel where he's 7,500. That's about with the field, but on DK, I'm just not getting there.
Okay, yeah, I'm about the same with you. I think I got less than 5 lineups with Zion today. Ingram just a better value by a pretty decent margin for me, but Zion always has that upside. I think he is a very potent player without Ingram in there. There's a lot of usage that needs to be soaked up by all these guys when they're all in the lineup together, and I think that worries me enough about Zion. I don't necessarily want to be there. I guess anybody else in this game jumping out to you ownership-wise before we jump? Because I'm curious about who your guy is that you're most over the field on, but anybody else in this game? Because this is, to me, the main event game tonight, also the last game on the slate. Anybody else that you're getting a lot above the field?
I've got 16% Drew Holiday. We're only projecting 4. I would say, I guess that's probably something to point out, but that looks like that's it. I don't see anybody else's name popping out.
Shout out CLA935 for the super chat. We appreciate it. Kudos to Josh and Lofty for not cussing, crying, or writhing on the floor on camera. Great viewing pleasure. Wow, no cussing. I feel like I wouldn't put that in the mix, but kudos to you from CLA935.
It was not easy to do most of those things.
Just 88 also in the chat, not a super chat, regular chat. Boo, we don't like regular chat. No, I'm just kidding. Has Chris Spags tried the spicy chip? No, he has not. And he would not do that unless forced to for content or for some sort of bet. So don't even get any ideas here. SuperDraft wants to sponsor me eating it. Then go ahead, SuperDraft. You know my ACH info. Hit that wire.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, my rate for eating that one a second time has gone up dramatically.
Having seen your experience and having heard it now from you firsthand, I would say the price of that one should be pretty lofty. Let's go through. Actually, tell me your exposed players. I'm curious about that. I want to talk about the Boston guys because they're going to get a bit of a boost today. Great matchup for them going into Minnesota, but also no Kemba Walker today. But what is your guy who you're so exposed to?
How you feeling about Donovan Mitchell?
I find him to be okay. I think he's not going to be over-owned. He's only 15% on DK, but
he's going to be over-owned for somebody.
So he doesn't get a boost from Conley. That's the thing, like from Conley being out. Like I think Ingles gets more of a boost. I think even Bojan Bogdanovic gets more of a boost. But like I think the price on Mitchell looks really good on DraftKings. So I have some. I think I'm a little bit under the field, but close enough to it where it's going to be probably in the wash. But what's your rationale for going to Donovan Mitchell?
I just think he's priced too low. 7K on FanDuel, 6,900 on DraftKings, 30+% usage rate. He's north of a point per minute. I've got him in for 35 minutes. I see no reason why this game can at least stay relatively close. We talk about it a lot, but Utah tends to play their starters the full run, even if it gets out of hand in home games. This is a home game for the Jazz. It just feels like a pretty good spot. I'm not worried about San Antonio's defense. It's not necessarily a pace-up spot, but it's relatively pace-neutral for Utah. I just think he's going a little underrepresented, so I'm kind of just hitching a wagon.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think the price certainly makes sense. I wouldn't say it's exactly the same because they're not really the same player, but kind of like when Devin Booker was just underpriced a couple of weeks ago, where you just know the guy's going to shoot 20 to 30 times in a game, and that always offers big upside. Going against the Spurs, 110 defensive rating for them, one of the worst marks in the league. Certainly a spot where Mitchell can find that upside. So I get it. I would rather have Ingles. Like Ingles to me is really cheap, has the dual position eligibility. I just think he's a nice value guy today whose ownership is now much more reasonable. I think we had him closer to 20%. Now he's at 12. I'd rather have Ingles just relative to their price points, but I get it. I mean, the Jazz are cheap today for sure.
I have a little bit more Ingles than the field as well. I've got 19% there, so I get it. And then Rudy Gobert is my top center on FanDuel.
Yeah, you are always team Rudy Gobert, I feel like, because you like to go when there's like a highly owned center that has some volatility. I feel like that's when you go to Gobert. That's my gut instinct on your place.
I don't have much on DraftKings, actually. Like I'm just kind of neutral to the field. On FanDuel, it's just he's stepping out.
Also, Jacob DeRozier, so I believe is our graphic designer, Jake, giving us a $2 no cussing bonus. So that is good. And also one good question here from Todd Strong, asking a question a lot of people apparently want answered. What was more painful for you, the pizza rolls or the chip? My guess is the chip based upon how you're reacting.
Oh my God. It's not even remotely close. The chip so eating the chip, the experience of it being in my mouth and just like my throat was not as bad as like the final 10 pizza bites. Everything after the stream was over is worse than the pizza bites times a million.
There's a real long tail to, I think, eating the hot chip as opposed to the pizza rolls, which is just like you had a bad night of eating. You feel bad about yourself.
I mean, I've eaten like a lot of pizza products before that. I knew what was going to happen for that. I knew I was going to roll through it. I never had a doubt. I had no guidance on this one. I did not have anything to compare it to. And I know now that I will never compare it to anything else because I just will never do that again.
They should bring that chip to Hot Ones instead of all the sauces. I feel like that'd be the move. Now the Hot Ones TV show, by the way, outlandish that there's a TV show, but good for Sean Evans getting all that money.
For real.
Got
I don't think the chip is that bad to like eat. I think my biggest problem was just simply not preparing whatsoever and putting anything in my stomach.
Yeah, you can overestimate. I mean, you are a confident gentleman, and I would say that perhaps a little overconfident. Now you know. Now you know. Now you have a quote. We have a rate established for eating a hot chip.
I didn't think that would matter.
It is not 500 YouTube likes.
No.
That should not. Laffy, the team player, did his chip eating for just 500 YouTube likes. Could have set the bar a little higher.
We should get some YouTube likes. So we only have 350. There's 2,200 people here. Guys, I ate a fire chip today and lit my insides. I filled them with lava.
Channel, by the way, too, if you guys want to see it, if you want to watch it in the background while we're talking right now, make sure to do that. Got news here, by the way. Kevin Love officially will play. I think that was expected. TJ Warren also will play. So anybody who is pinning their hopes on some Jeremy Lamb value opening up, I think that's now gone. Let's talk about Boston because I'm curious your thoughts on these guys. I'm curious actually your thoughts on this game overall because I like both sides quite a bit. I might be a fool here and I think you may tell me I'm a fool, but I really like this Minnesota team without Towns. And granted, I did watch all that Charlotte game because I'm a sucker for Devontae Graham and he came through that night, but they're fun. Like they're fun without Towns, and Malik Beasley in particular is just a monster. But I want to know your thoughts on the Boston side first. These guys getting a pretty big boost. Jaylen Brown to me looks just very underpriced on all the sites today. Jason Tatum appropriately priced, but still looks good. Gets probably the biggest boost from Kemba not being out there.
I got to pause you. Speaking of your Minnesota boys, Naz Reid's starting.
Oh, okay. So that kind of makes sense because he started in the second half last game. But do you think that actually affects Naz's minutes? I feel like he still won't get a ton of run.
I do think it. Well, I mean, like, I had him in for 20 before. I think you can safely give him 24 now, and that really changes his outlook.
Yeah, let me see. Because how much did he play in that second half? Because he did get the start there. I think he had foul trouble in the first half. I don't think it was in the second. Let's see. He played 6 minutes there, and then 6 more. So he played 12 minutes in the second half of that game.
Okay.
And he had, 1, 2 fouls.
Like his price isn't the best, but I think that he is now someone you have to at least like be cognizant over. And I think that it makes James Johnson look not as yummy.
Yes, I would agree. I think James Johnson and Juancho both look pretty good. I still have no issue with Juancho. I mean, Juancho played 38 minutes in that last game without Towns, but I would agree James Johnson does seem a little less likely to get the full run, though he did get pretty good run, even though he didn't get the start. Yeah, he played pretty big stints in that second half. Yeah, I like Nas that last time, but yeah, at almost 5K on DraftKings, I feel like it's harder to get to Nas today.
Yeah,
and I like Nas. Nas is super productive whenever he actually gets run. 1.2 fantasy points per minute for him on the year, so he's a good dude.
Anyway, back to Boston. I've got 37% Tatum on DraftKings. I've got 34% Brown, 17% Tice, 10% Cantor, 6% Gordon Hayward, 2% Smart.
Okay, wait, you said 2% Marcus Smart?
Yes.
Okay. Any reason to be so low on him, given that he's also probably the lowest owned of the quadrant of these guys?
I don't like that $5,900 price tag.
Okay, that is fair. Yeah, he mostly doesn't get a lot of usage. Does get an assist boost without Kemba, but I think there is assist upside for him going against Minnesota. A team is deliberately playing much faster now, and certainly with less good defense with some of the guys they've gotten rid of and some of the guys they brought in. But I would agree that Smart's probably the least appealing, though. I feel like I do have more Smart than Hayward. Like Hayward, I think I have a little bit of a blind spot with, and he's under 10% owned. He does seem like the sneakiest Celtic on DraftKings.
Yeah, I have 6%. His price is too high as far as I'm concerned, so he's not somebody that I'm getting to a lot. I have very little on FanDuel as well.
All right, so let's talk about this Minnesota side. Obviously, we talked a little bit about Naz Reid there. Juancho, again, got that big run last time out. James Johnson did as well. So you still should see pretty good run for both Naz Reid and for James Johnson, though. As Josh mentioned, probably a bit less run for Johnson this time out. But the guy who really jumps out to me is Malik Beasley. without Towns in there, he put up 25 shots last game. And granted, that was Charlotte. Maybe it was something defensive with Russell, and Russell did really try to initiate the offense more than just looking for a shot like he did in Golden State. But Beasley, to me, and we've talked about him before, like he to me is just like a sleeping giant of a player who's been dying to get out of that Denver kind of slew of guys who are just there hogging all the wing minutes. I think he's getting the run now, and I think he's the type of dude going against Boston. I think they dedicate more attention to trying to keep Russell from killing him. I love Beasley today. He's one of my guys I'm most over the field on. Where are you with Beasley? Do you think he's worth it, or am I being a fool here?
I have him in 2 lineups on DraftKings.
Okay. So you do not like Beasley.
I do not have Beasley. I did have James Johnson as my most owned Timberwolf. That is going to change a little bit, and he'll come down. Wancho is probably going to be the guy I end up with most from this game.
I think Awesemo to be so like obviously Josh is going to have his model and the way that he's running projections. Awesemo did have Beasley looking pretty good, though less good
Agreed.
than I would have had when figuring his rates out. Yeah, Beasley is 6x value on DraftKings, 33 projected points for him. And if you do want all the projections, by the way, SuperDraft projections I believe are free today, but all of our projections are available if you use the promo code live before lock. Put that promo code in right now at awesemo.com/join to get half off your first week. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just more bullish on Beasley and then getting Awesemo as the cosign. It's me and Awesemo versus you today, Josh, is what it seems.
I'd rather be on your side, man.
Yeah, look, I like Beasley, man. I think Beasley is a good player, and I think he's going to be a guy who's going to chuck in a lot of spots. Boston, not Charlotte in terms of defense. Obviously, they are a much more competent team, but if anybody's going to look for their shot, I think it's Beasley, and I believe in the talent a little bit more there. What about Russell? Are you getting him?
I have like 10%, but even more interesting. My wife just sent me a picture of a pint of ice cream called Streetcar Churro Dough, and that's going to be fantastic to eat after this. So kudos to my wife for knowing that she's got to put the flames out.
I enjoy a good cinnamon ice cream. I've had some churro ice creams since I've been out in LA, and I really enjoy a nice churro ice cream. I feel like the cinnamon and ice cream goes nice together. So
I
you'll have
very
a good
much
time.
agree. It's like my second favorite ice cream behind Scotchy Scotch, which they no longer make.
I've been very big on Chubby Hubby recently. That's one that I used to date a girl who used to get that all the time, and she'd request me to get ice cream, the Ben & Jerry's flavor, and I would always think that she would enjoy Chunky Monkey, even though apparently she hated bananas, and that's what I remember from that dating experience. Nothing else, not a single thing else.
No comment.
Let's keep going through the slate here because we've talked about two of the main points. What are your thoughts on Cleveland at Washington? 236 combined points in this game, pretty high total. Bradley Beal, to me, looks like a very underappreciated play in terms of ownership, but Andre Drummond as well on the other side. I just think he's better than people are giving him credit for ownership-wise. And I think, too, Cleveland is like that last game was odd. Tristan Thompson went off after Drummond got into some foul trouble. I think this spot, Drummond can get his minutes back, and I do think if he's going to get his minutes back, being able to do that at under 5% ownership against Washington is like the spot to have Drummond. How do you feel about him today? Are you with him and Beal as well?
I don't have a single share of anyone from the Cavs.
Man, all right. No Drummond
left. From a Washington perspective, I'm in the 20s on Ish and Beal, and I have 8% Troy Brown, which I guess is fine, but I'm tired of Troy Brown, so I might just take a minute off of him so that stops happening.
Also, Ryan Stubbs' Americone Dream is the best ever. That is, in fact, very much true, but less available now because actually Stephen Colbert doesn't do that shtick anymore, so I feel like it's less available. Also, Yabo pointing out it's churro, roll the R. It's mostly an Italian person. I am a small bit Latino. I don't really enunciate anything ethnic food-wise. I just feel like you look like an asshole. And
I can't roll my R's, so it doesn't matter. Anytime anybody asks me to do that, I basically just like growl. I'm more of like a Chewbacca thing. I can't. Like an
adorable little bear.
Yeah, so I just can't. It's. I would love to. I don't. I'm sorry for not being able to do that, but I physically just can't.
I don't mean for this to be my relationship hour, but there was a girl I used to date who would call mozzarella sticks, who was like very Italian, would call mozzarella sticks mozzarella sticks, and she would be like at like TGI Fridays, be like, "Gotta get the mozzarella sticks." Like, you don't need to say mozzarella sticks.
You should have never went out with her again.
She was a lawyer, so she had earning potential. Got to weigh these things equally.
She's like the Saul Goodman of girls.
That must be it. No, she was very confident. She just, and pretty, but just,
Was she trying to
annoying.
be funny, or was that like her thing?
Nope. No irony at all.
That's because if you can do that and like, smile and wink, okay, I could go for that gimmick from time to time. If I'm committing to that, no. I'm not rolling. I can't order that shouting it into the Sonic microphone.
Anytime anybody trolls me, I'm on board. I think that's usually amusing in a relationship type thing. But yeah, no, if that there was no irony, she just felt like she had to assert her ethnic identity by putting that in front of sticks. Washington side for you. Getting any Beal? Please tell me you're getting at least a little bit of Beal, because I'm going to feel really alone here if you're not getting Beal.
Yes, Beal and Ish Smith in the 20s.
There we go. Beal, to me, I think this is an ideal Beal spot as well. Just a team who's given up 49% shooting from the floor, a little bit over that in Cleveland. Maybe JB Bickerstaff turns him around defensively. Memphis did defend a little better last year, and then they have this year, though they have picked it up down the stretch. I just think it's a really nice spot for Beal, and I like Beal's in these kind of spots is where he has the 70 fantasy point upside where he just doesn't miss. So I really think Beal should be more owned than he is.
Yeah, I think it's an ideal spot.
What other game are you getting the most guys from? Because we've talked about, to me, some of the main ones. We talked a little bit about San Antonio, I guess. So maybe let's jump back there, because I'm curious to see, you mentioned your Utah exposure. We talked about those guys pretty fully, but you said DeRozan is one of the guys who would ruin your night the most. Where are you with him? He's projected for 12% on DraftKings. I think a little bit more on FanDuel, but where are you with him?
Yeah, I have 34 on DraftKings right now, and I have him projected slightly less than Alex does. And we've talked a couple times now about like discrepancies in our projections. In every one that I have in my player pool, Alex is only projecting 38 more points on top of those guys. So it's not as if I've got 1,400 or 1,900 points and he's got 2,200, and that makes everything make sense. Like, we're basically projecting the exact same amount of stuff. So I'm actually behind him on DeRozan and still massively over the field. And those are the situations where I'm just like, nice, this feels perfect.
Also, did you say Beal?
Yes.
I just heard, because I listen to Josh probably quieter than you guys hear him. So I like a little word enunciation joke like that would not resonate. That actually is very funny. So yeah. I don't want to let that one go by, because the YouTube chat is pointing it out.
What up, chat? I'm glad you guys are here for this.
The dad jokes flow more freely when your colon is being blown out, I guess.
Yeah.
So San Antonio, I agree, looks good. Another place too where you can really do some damage to your colon. But a nice spot for DeRozan, I agree, coming back into the lineup here. I'd be less inclined to go to Aldridge. I guess he's not really priced up for his games without DeRozan, but I think some people out there may see that, he put up 50 fantasy points 2 games in a row. DeRozan being out there materially changes the equation for him. And just stylistically, it does seem like DeRozan's a better matchup on the wing. So I would agree there. Just a fine team. I feel like they're not the team that's most exciting, but on a slate like this, sometimes going to a well-projected, non-exciting team can be the move.
Yeah, I did not expect this coming in, but like when I started looking through it, again, it's when I see myself, and this is the same sort of story for CJ McCollum. When I see that I have someone projected less than Alex, and I'm still getting north of the field in ownership, I don't touch that at all. Like, I'm immediately thinking to myself, this is a perfect spot to be.
Yeah, no, I think that seems fair. Some could say an ideal spot, huh?
I see what you did there.
Let's jump around here. I want to hear your thoughts on Memphis and the Lakers. I do think LeBron and AD maybe fit the criteria you usually look for. 2 guys who are going to look pretty sturdy today. Going against a Memphis team who's on the back-to-back and had a pretty high exertion game yesterday at Sacramento. They lost in pretty close, borderline heartbreaking fashion, I would say. The Lakers guys, though, I kind of got to less than I thought I would because of the value that's out there. I thought I'd get more LeBron, thought I'd get more AD. I got some, but I'm still a little bit under the field. Doesn't feel great. Are you getting LeBron and AD today? Or are you getting anybody else in the Lakers? JaVale McGee, maybe at a very cheap price, but with the most insecure minutes probably he's ever had in his Lakers career.
I basically have both of them like in the 10 to 15% range, both on FanDuel and DraftKings, and I don't have anything else coming from the Lakers. There's just, I don't know, something about it's just not popping out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big, like, Vegas has given them 122 combined, 122 implied points here, 7.3 more than their season average. And like, I see LeBron and AD like projected well. I just I feel like there are guys a little bit cheaper I'd rather go to, and that could be the fool's errand. And I might have used that phrase twice today. But either way, I think these guys are sturdy and they look reasonably owned. I thought they'd be kind of like yesterday where Harden, Giannis ownership went up a lot more because some of the value out there has not been the case so far today for LeBron and AD. Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a spot that could be competitive and they can actually get something going.
I'm going to point this out now. It's 6:37. I am running what I hope is my final crunch. So now is about the time where you should get your dummy lineups in because I'm sure shit's about to get crazy. This is usually when everything blows up for a you and me stream. The moment that I think that I'm running my final thing. So be prepared, everybody. Put in a dummy lineup that you like.
We talked about it yesterday, but one of the optimizers was down a bit yesterday as well. And I would say that, that is something we talked about with Sal, where it's important to have dummy lineups in. Josh does it every day. Everybody out there just, it sucks when those things happen, but unfortunately that is sort of the nature of the beast. Just make sure to get dummy lineups in there that you feel at least relatively comfortable with while you do your final crunches here. Because
you mentioned it yesterday that like I was probably freaking out on the other end of the, microphone basically. And oddly enough, I was sitting pretty. I didn't even need it to export. I had a set of lineups that were fine. I dropped Christian Wood's minutes by like 2, refreshed my own sheet, and was just like, cool. If it works, it works. It was one of those times where I was like, oh, great. That's fantastic.
That's being prepared, though. I mean, that's sort of, you had your own fail safes built in. I do think that's a big part of it for a lot of the people out there, is making sure you have some sort of fail safes, at least have a crunch save somewhere, have something to be able to use.
Meanwhile, Adam's like, I haven't run a crunch yet, and it's 6:45. I was like, what is wrong with you?
Didn't he win? He didn't win 50K in NBA yesterday, right? It was
the hockey NHL. 2 or 3 nights ago. Wednesday night.
It's like if you somehow won 50K despite that, I'd be remarkably impressed. But just normal Adam impressiveness, I guess, would be the case in that one.
Yes.
How about Memphis aside? Anybody popping for you? Because D'Anthony Melton's a guy I feel like we've talked about and both had projected well in the past. And I had some for him yesterday, but didn't have enough because I just don't fully trust D'Anthony Melton, a pretty volatile player. Even though he's very productive per minute, can sometimes disappoint. But are you getting any of him or these other Memphis guys today? John Morant yesterday, really disappointing. I think it could be a good night to go back to him in one of those showcase games. You could see him yelling at LeBron today because LeBron didn't defend him on a 3.
Yeah, I basically don't have Memphis today.
Okay.
On either site.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much. I do feel like Melton is still priced well, though I don't expect that day yesterday to happen again. Really only played 23 minutes, but still spiked the 40 fantasy point upside. But still well priced for these guys like Dylan Brooks too. Just shooting absolutely terribly on the year. Now he's down to 41%, but he's getting 15 to 20 shots a game. So if he heats up one of these days, it's going to be good. Jonas too, being close to the rim, I think is valuable, but I only got like one lineup with him. Didn't get much of these guys, but just wanted to hit on them.
Fair.
Couple questions here in the chat. One from Chris, great name. How much exposure do you and Josh have on Jaylen Brown? I have double the field on Jaylen Brown. He's one of the guys on Boston I like the most.
Yeah.
Where are you with Jaylen Brown?
I had 39 on FanDuel and 34 on DraftKings. I'm running my final crunch now.
Let's see. Where is his ownership? Because I might not be double the field now because I think his ownership's come up a bit.
I had 20 before, but I haven't refreshed the table.
Oh. He's at 20 now on DK. I'm definitely at 40 or 45. So I'm heavy on Jaylen Brown. Big usage bump for him without Kemba out there.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same for him and Tatum. So he definitely pops up a lot because of that.
Yeah, I'm more than happy having him.
Yep, I agree. Another question here from DN0LEN39. So D Nolen 39, I guess, is that what that would be? What kind of group would you do for Portland on DK? I feel like one out of Simons and Trent would be it, but I didn't even need that. Like that wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
But do you have any groups you would set for Portland?
No, probably not.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe if you don't get McCollum, try to get one of the other guys. For me would be a thing. Though for Josh, that'd be a different equation because he's getting less McCollum. But I have so much McCollum that I wouldn't hate the idea if you're saying no McCollum, go somewhere else. But not a thing I did. I think it worked out fine enough for me. I didn't get a crazy amount of Simons today for whatever reason. It kind of surprised me.
I was really excited when he was heavily chalk because I wasn't getting a lot. And then the moment his ownership dropped, then I started getting more.
Yeah, that's basically where I was. I got more than enough where I feel good about it. And I do think him going off in that last game against Memphis, like for me, I would honestly rather see Simons not start. I know the minutes get more secure, but his minutes being staggered away from CJ, I think is going to be more beneficial. If they do that and he starts, I think that's also fine. But I think there's just a little more risk for Simons, and he's been pretty volatile in terms of his per minute numbers on the year. So I think that's less Simons would be good if he's very chalky.
Gonna have to rerun FanDuel, that's for sure.
Got 18 minutes left, guys. And again, if you started to get your lineups in, hopefully no crazy news coming in the next 18 or 20 minutes or so, but go ahead and go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo10. That tournament was filling up a little faster today. Yesterday, there was some overlay in there with 10K up top. Today, it's just 5K up top, but less entries in the tournament. Only 2,400 entries in the tournament. 1,100 people in there right now. So get in there because this one actually got a shot to fill today. And really, the SuperDraft tournaments are a great way to win money if you're a new player. Yeah. Use the promo code Awesemo10, get $10 free without even depositing, or you can get $20 if you deposit under 100, $30 if you deposit over 100. We're making it really easy for you guys to get in there, enter some lineups. And again, during the last half hour of the show, another half hour after lockout for all the main slates, we're doing our SuperDraft exclusive show where we're basically just going to give you a lineup. We've just been building lineups on the show. People did pretty well with the one we had yesterday with me and Sal. So we'll do that again, and we'll make it about as simple as possible for you guys to win some money on there. So go to superdraft.io and use that promo code Awesemo10, AWESEMO10. Let's see here. No good questions in the chat, at least that I'm seeing. Anything you're getting weird in your crunches right now or in your final crunches that you're putting together?
Nothing that I saw that is like really catching my eye. Nothing that we haven't really touched on. I'm pretty concentrated in my ownership on FanDuel, but nothing that we haven't like touched on. I really like Lonzo on FanDuel. Well, we haven't talked about that. I guess that's one of the Pelicans that I missed because I was only looking at DraftKings before, but that's a spot that I'm going. I think he's a little too cheap there.
Yeah, I think Lonzo's at a good price on DraftKings as well. I certainly don't mind him. Not a guy I would go out of my way for by any stretch, but he is kind of a forgotten guy. And point guard position again, not the most full unless you're putting McCollum there on DraftKings. I do think that that's one guy I don't mind getting a little bit of. Are you getting Luka, by the way, at all? Because he's on the slate today.
Luka Doncic is 55% owned for me on FanDuel.
So you were heavy on Luka. What's popping up for you that's making him be worth that much exposure?
It's just sort of a positional thing. I basically have him, Kyle Lowry, Lonzo Ball, and Ish Smith, and they're making up basically all of my point guard exposure. They have 162 of the 200% possible. So I'm just very, very concentrated on those four guys. It's easier to pay up for Luka at point guard than it seems to be anywhere else. There's lower tier value at pretty much every position except for point guard today.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And Luka is certainly capable of an upside day when people aren't on him as much. And his ownership on DraftKings is down to 12%. So if you got some money to spend, and Luka's really not at the crazy prices he was earlier in the year. I get it.
I'm hoping I have a lot on DraftKings too. I don't really know. I had 24% before. We'll see where that ends up. I'm exporting right now.
A question from our guy Dave in the premium Slack: are people sleeping on Jordan Clarkson? Had a hot day, actually a series of hot games before the break. I got a little bit of Clarkson. I kind of feel like he's due to bounce back down to earth sooner than later. I still don't mind him though. The spot really should be a good one for him going against San Antonio. But are you feeling any Jordan Clarkson today or no?
Sorry, I don't take questions from Dave.
But he has a new Tupac avatar.
Yeah, I don't have any Jordan Clarkson.
Wiggy asking for Toronto Phoenix thoughts. So this is one game I guess we probably should talk about a little bit more. I didn't get much on Phoenix's side. I just feel like Booker's priced about where I think he should be. Maybe a little bit underpriced, but not really. DeAndre Ayton, just having Baines back in the mix gives me enough pause for him at his price where it is right now. They're healthy now. I feel like it's just not a spot I want to be at. Toronto, though, I do think Ibaka on DraftKings very underpriced. Siakam as well. Like Siakam and Lowry are guys I've been going to when I wanted to change it up at my point guard or power forward / center. So I do think Toronto's a little more appealing, but are you getting any of this game?
Yeah, so I have a lot of Siakam on DraftKings, 32%. I have a lot of Ibaka on FanDuel at 37%. I do have quite a bit of Kyle Lowry as well, but that is more of a FanDuel thing. That's pretty much it for the Toronto side of this. I mean, I have 19% Van Vliet on FanDuel, but I don't think that that's anything super nuts. I do have my final DraftKings exposures. Nothing wildly different than it was before. 27% Luka. I did get to 15% Naz Reid, which makes me mildly uncomfortable, but I'll take it. Lots of Ibaka, still a lot of DeRozan, CJ, Melo, Simons, Ariza, just a lot of Portland in general. Yeah, I'm happy with this. And still an absolute ton of one Donnie Mitchell.
Donnie, that makes him sound like a middle reliever. Almost baseball time. So we're going to have all those fun names back in our lives.
Lucky us.
As Josh and I always say, the best time to be a DFS content person is the overlap between NBA and MLB. Great times for everybody involved.
Not a great time for me. That is the time. There's like a 3-week stretch where you become insufferable about basketball, recommending all of the absolute dirt worst players in the world. What up, Tim Quarterman?
I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a fair assessment.
You know it's true. You live for the final 2 weeks of the NBA regular season.
I do. That's where all the work. That's where the Anthony Simons has truly come to shine. That's why I think I always have a little thing for Simons. Where I remember his 80 fantasy point day. That was a fun one.
Yeah, but he's actually good, or at least had a pedigree. You'd be like, Tim Quarterman is the best play on the slate today.
Jordan Bone season going to be coming up soon for the Pistons. It's going to be
somebody got signed for the Hornets today whose name I didn't recognize.
Cheaty or something.
Yeah, I'm assuming that you already have him in a lineup on like March 27th.
I'm just putting him in lineups right now to be safe.
Yeah.
just in case he gets some run. So we got a question in the premium Slack, which our boy Andrew Mocked asked earlier, but now one of the porn spam bots is re-asking it. And I forgot to ask it earlier. So thank you, Charlotte Hot Sex Click On Photo. I appreciate you bumping this one up. Can we talk about the elephant in the room on FanDuel? How much Oladipo? So I mentioned this in the Four Corners today. DraftKings has passed over the Oladipo value curse over to FanDuel very kindly now. He's appropriately priced on DraftKings for where you'd expect him to be. On FanDuel, he is cheap. What are you doing with Oladipo?
I am basically matching the field. I have 23%.
Okay, so you're just with it. You're not taking any stance there.
Correct.
Do you feel like it's a pretty good play?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't hate it. I wouldn't mind having more if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to bounce back at some point. He's going to have a monster day, I'm sure, when he does bounce back. But there's enough bodies there where, for me, on FanDuel even, I mean, I had the same issue on DraftKings. I played a little bit. I came in with the field or under it. I feel like going over the field is just not the move until he proves it. But, at some point, he's not going to shoot 32% from the floor. And that point will probably come sooner than later. Maybe today against the Knicks. You just don't know. Let's see here. Got a question here. Brian, where'd you go, Brian? Well, Brian has said he loves the show. He might not have said love. He might have used a less positive verb, but it was but somewhere like and love. He was asking about Jamal Murray. Denver, to me, just not on the radar at all. Really, that whole game, Denver and Oklahoma City. I got like nobody from this, maybe a little bit of Gallo, but I don't see the need for this game on the slate today. But are you getting any Jamal Murray or anybody at all in this game?
Let's see. Denver. No, I don't have anything from Denver on the DraftKings side. I do have 10% Jokic on FanDuel. Very minimal amount of Jamal Murray.
Question here from Dad. Actually, did you get any Nerlens Noel on DraftKings? Because Awesemo did mention that he's a guy that just seems like he's due for some better days than he's had recently. Foul troubles, minutes limited for various reasons, and certainly some possibility of Steven Adams getting into foul trouble today and opening up even more for Noel, even though you can't bank on that. He's minimum priced on DraftKings. Did you get any?
Yeah, I was getting a lot, unfortunately, like 30% at one point, and I kind of had a little freak out, so I lowered it. So I have 7% now.
Okay. Also, I just replied to this in the premium Slack, but Boss Bros saying Spags hating on Clarkson. What's new? I don't think I've ever hated on Clarkson. In fact, I think I've advocated for him when he's busted.
What's
violently.
New? Who keeps track of Jordan Clarkson takes?
I don't think there are many guys I hate actively, but definitely Clarkson is not one of them. I played him a lot when he was on Cleveland, less so since Utah, but of course now he's playing amazingly.
Wow.
Serge and Fred VanVleet or Sabonis and Smart for FanDuel cash. Our boy Johnny Sack is asking.
Let me see if I can. Where is that? All right, Serge and VanVleet or Sabonis and Smart. I would say Serge and Van Vliet.
Elusive Smoke, tell Josh you're just a replacement level player connoisseur. You can't match my level of sophistication and taste. That's why, Elusive Smoke, you get my shout outs when I have to name my favorite people in the Slack. It's a well worded way for me to look good. That's all I want out of life. Dadler40 asking thoughts on the 7.5K to 8.5K range on FanDuel. More specifically, can you rank Tatum, Randall, Sabonis, and Zion with price considered? FanDuel, obviously, that's your domain where you're playing a lot of your lineups today. How are you feeling about those guys? For me, just not even thinking about price. I feel like Tatum would be the one I would put first, but the rest of them, they're all fine.
In terms of ownership, I'm going Zion, Tatum, Sabonis, Randall, but I have all of them from 13% to 20%, so it's not as if anything it's all pretty much the same,
Yeah, that's fair. Tatum, I think, is just a stronger play. He's the guy who's getting the biggest opportunity boost out of those guys, so that would be one of the reasons I'd be okay with it. Anthony Wilson asking Kevin Porter and Cantor or Melton and Naz Reid for a DK GPP. I think that'd be Melton and Naz Reid for me.
I don't have anybody from Cleveland. I don't have Naz Reid. Who are the other people? Cantor?
Yeah, Cantor and Porter versus Melton and Naz Reid.
I don't want either.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, both of those groups of people have guys in it that I'm not playing today, so I can't really pick one of them.
I mean, value-wise, I feel like Melton and Naz Reid would be the one that just makes sense to me. But still a spot where I don't really feel like those guys are ones I have a ton of on either situation.
Are we really gonna make it through here without? I'm gonna try to jinx it now. Are we gonna make it through without any bombs?
Will Barton's a game time decision, so that's something.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, you especially. Josh is a game time decision for the Super Draft show. Let's see. Anything else good here? Premium Slack, we covered it well. Our boy Sebi G asking about the pigtails. Pigtails, maybe they'll come back next week. I've been lazy, and the XFL show makes my Fridays pretty tight timing wise. So I haven't had the time to do them the last couple of weeks. Let's see. Yeah, YouTube. Trent Jr. or Kuzma on DraftKings. Our guy Antoine Murphy asking in the YouTube chat. I got, I think, one lineup with Trent and one lineup with Kuzma, and that was just because their price works. So I don't have a lean here. I guess Trent if you're not playing Simons, but Josh, do you have a lean with Trent Jr. or Kuzma on DraftKings?
I would not be playing Kyle Kuzma, so I guess Trent.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. I don't mind Kuzma in this kind of spot. Like Kuzma going against Memphis, I feel like in a game where Memphis is on a back-to-back, maybe you see a little more Kuzma opportunity. But yeah, I don't know. Just not a dude I'm dying to play. Trent at least has kind of a logical reason to exist in the lineup, I would think, with Simon's ownership.
Sure.
Dave asking Lonzo Ball, Ricky Rubio, TJ Warren, and Aaron Gordon. So a four-way. So strap in. Lonzo Ball, Ricky Rubio, TJ Warren, and Aaron Gordon. Or Ish Smith, Lowry, Zion, and Royce O'Neal for FanDuel. Josh, how would you answer that 4v4?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'd go the Ish Smith way, Dave, I think. Yeah, I'd go Ish. Aaron Gordon. Oh.
Let's be honest. He knew that question wasn't getting answered.
I think he asked that for spite. He's returning a jacket for spite, asking questions for spite. Two things you cannot do for spite. LaMarcus Aldridge or Serge for a FanDuel GPP?
Serge.
Yeah. Serge had a good price on both sides today. Is one Celtic getting too cute? I wouldn't say it's too cute, but I mean, to be Jaylen Brown, if you're gonna have one Celtic, be the Celtic. But how many Celtics do you feel like you're getting in a lineup overall?
Probably 1.5.
Okay. Yeah. I got some Brown and Tatum lineups. I got some Brown, and I think I had one lineup with 4, and I would it wasn't I didn't blanch at that, but I feel like 1 to 2 seems about right. I just wouldn't feel the need to load up necessarily, especially on a slate this big with a lot of guys out there that are worth playing. People now are razzing Dave for the 4x4.
Of course they are.
I appreciate our Slack. Our Slack has some ups and downs with people being rousted out of town, but a lot of funny people there that make me laugh more often than not. Anthony Davis or Joker? I have no Jokic today. It'd be Davis for me.
I'm gonna assume that's a DraftKings question. At which point
so.
I have Anthony Davis and I don't have Jokic. I have more Anthony Davis on FanDuel than I have of Jokic, but I do have Jokic there.
Okay. The fake Ryan asking, can I ask 9v9 questions?
I mean, you could ask them.
Like, depends how much time we have to fill, Ryan. Depends how much time we have to
Certainly
fill.
doesn't.
Drew or Beal? Eric G asks. That would be Beal for me by a very wide margin.
Yeah, Beal.
This doesn't. Mike Campbell asking this. I'm going to change the grammar for you, Mike. Don't the T-Wolves have a lot better defense without Towns? No, they don't, especially when accounting for the lack of Covington and the addition of D'Angelo Russell and their other guys.
Yeah, they're just real bad now. No Covington, no Gorgeous Dong, which was the real benefit to their defense previously. No, their defense is dreadful. Probably the worst in the league.
That's to me too part of why I think this game today, like I think it appeals to me to go to Boston. I don't think people are onto the fact, and maybe it's a little bit of firsthand bias from watching pretty much all that Charlotte game, but teams are going to score a lot on Minnesota, which maybe adds more credence to loading up on Celtics, but they are playing extremely fast and they are playing extremely loose. And even goaded Charlotte into running, which is like impossible. They play so slow deliberately. I think Minnesota's a team that's going to get into a lot of shootouts in this back, not even half this back third of the season. Let's see. Ariza or Trent or Simons, no sight given.
What do you want me to do with that question?
I'd say take Simons would be the move, but
Trevor Ariza.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Sexton or Ball on FanDuel?
Oh, Ball by a million gajillion miles. I have 6 times as much Lonzo Ball than Colin Sexton.
I got like seconds left to lock guys to get him in. Pharmacist Yoho asking Zion or Tatum for FanDuel?
Zion.
Interesting. Okay.
Tatum's expensive.
Tatum. Okay. Yeah. Are they that far? I thought they were in the same price range from that other guy. But
Tatum's $1,200 more expensive.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fine. All right. Yeah. Got all these questions. YouTube chat. Porzingis out? Question mark.
That's not funny.
No, it was a question mark. It was a question mark. You're playing Porzingis today?
Wow, Laffy did a spot on VSiN today. I forgot about that. That must have been fun. I wonder when that was.
Oh, he did it after the.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Yeah, the VSiN boys, all of us do it. You jealous of our VSiN exposure now that you didn't want to do the Super Bowl show?
I don't even know what it is, so I guess no.
It's a Brett Musburger's thing on it's like the Vegas. They have like a whole network. It's actually a pretty big deal. I wouldn't say shocked, but I wasn't aware of the level of their depth when we did the shows for the Super Bowl. But we did like an hour show that was on their channel, and maybe more to come. Apparently, Laffy greasing the shores for all of us to do more content on VSiN, possibly.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
It's really cool. I mean, like, honestly, like they should probably just like buy Awesemo and just have us live in Vegas and do shows from there. Cause they have like a lot of content. They have to fill 24 hours a day of like Vegas content.
Yeah. I don't want to live in Vegas.
Really? Vegas is fun. Like good dry heat, very affordable housing. I feel like I think you'd like great food, really good food. I guess you have good food where you are too.
Yeah. I don't need Vegas in my life right now.
Dev Rose asking Exumian or Miles on FanDuel Cash. I have only seen Exumian today, but boy, he's firing out hot.
I'll tell you what, just fade Miles clear across the board. Everybody else has.
Aw, poor Miles.
Miles is going to get 0 ownership. No one will play themselves.
Let's do a quick round of, do we want to rebrand this for the shows without Eddie? Like Eddie's here obviously for the majority of the week, but now I haven't seen Eddie on a show in a minute. So I feel like, should we call Daddy Likes something else? Should we just call it like the ownership game? I feel like
we just look at the ownership. We don't have to call it anything.
We can call it looking at ownership, looking at ownership. We're going to look at some ownership now. That's our theme song.
I almost want to bring back Daddy Likes.
That was a perfectly fine theme song off the spot. I think you're being unfair.
I think it's time to get into SuperDraft.
It is SuperDraft time. Let's do the quick little game here. Who do you think's the top owned from? It's only one game locked right now.
It should be 2. I don't know. Bradley Beal.
No, so
No,
it's actually Luka
Luka?
Doncic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luka's 16% in DK's excellent eights, bringing back the slightly cheaper tournaments. Good job by DK. 16% for Luka. We'll burn through the rest of these fast. So we could talk super draft. And if you aren't signed up right now, go while I do the daddy likes game, while we do the ownership game. So do that right now. Sign up at superdraft.io and use the promo code Awesemo10. $10 free without a deposit. $20 if you deposit under $100. $30 if you deposit over 100. So they're giving you a lot of ways to get some easy money to build your bankroll right now. Superdraft.io with the promo code Awesemo10. Use it when you sign up. It's the easiest way to do it. When you actually hit the sign up page, put it in there. Number 2 on the list, Bradley Beal at 12%. That feels pretty fair to me. I've got double it. How would you feel about Beal at 12?
Same, double it.
Ish Smith at 8 on DraftKings. Any lean for you there? I think I got one lineup with Ish, but not that much.
Triple it.
Colin Sexton 5%. That's fair. I think I got him in one lineup too.
Zilch.
Andre Drummond 5%. I am heavy on this one. I am 40% Drummond. So it was a risky play today, Josh, but I felt good about his spot. I just feel like people are really overreacting to the lack of Tristan and the situation. And his usage has actually been up in Cleveland. Like he's been better on a per minute basis. So I'm heavy on him. You got none though, right?
Not a share.
God damn. All right. Rui Hachimura, 5%. We'll burn through the rest of these because these guys, for the most part, not the most relevant. Kevin Porter, 5%. I would not want to play him right now with all the guys back in there. Kevin Love in particular. Aaron Gordon, 3.5%. Vucevic at 3%. I actually, a little bit more than that. I feel like he was a decent center play, kind of like for you with Rudy Gobert on FanDuel. Just at a good price point, a little bit better than the other centers. And I don't think he's ever going to kill you. So I'm above that one a little bit. James Ennis at 2.6. Did you have any interest in Ennis at all with the getting the start today?
No, I didn't.
Porzingis 2.2. Did you get any of him on DraftKings?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right. Chetty 2, good value. Shabazz Napier 2 as well. Kevin Love, pretty low owned at 1.9. Tristan Thompson 1.7. Certainly I should have had at least one lineup with him given the Drummond I had, but I didn't because that's what courage looks like. Larry Nance 1.6%. Tim Hardaway 1.5. Davis Bertans 1.5. Markelle Fultz 1.3. Darius Garland 1.3. Seth Curry 1.3. Mo Wagner 0.9. Got a lot less valuable with all the centers in the mix today. Troy Brown 0.9, Evan Fournier 0.8, Terrence Ross 0.8. Anybody freaking play themselves? Everybody's in. Maxi Kleber, Delon Wright, Willie Cauley-Stein, Jalen Brunson, Wes Iwundu 0.04. Maybe played yourself, probably not. I think everybody's in. So nobody played themselves on this.
Crazy.
Sleep.
That's too bad.
Wait, you know what? 0.01% John Wall.
There you go.
He was due to come back after the All-Star break. That's so he's not playing this year, I don't think, right?
Probably not.
He's got some like tough emotional stuff. He's gonna come
Actually,
back.
I think they ruled him out officially for the season.
Yeah, I think his mom or his grandma passed or something. I was watching a Wizards game and they were interviewing him, and apparently he's had some real inflection and stuff during his year away from the game. So we'll see how he comes back next year.
The Lakers are waiving DeMarcus Cousins.
Oh, that's sad. I mean, it's not like he's gonna do anything, I guess. And they got Markieff now, so they got 2 Morrises in LA. Oh, you think I could hang out with the Morris brothers? I think that'd be fun.
I don't think so.
I think they'd really like my vibe. I think they'd be very in on it.
Also, that Boogie news is not news for everybody freaking out over it.
No, it's just a 1-year deal, right?
I mean, he can't play.
Yeah, you got to make that roster spot somehow.
I'm surprised they didn't use him to trade for anything. And once they didn't, they obviously were just like, nah, fam.
Were they like, nah, fam, Josh?
That's what I think they were like.
So let's talk Super Draft. Our boy Rin Pack, who you see on these streams, some of our all-star streams over the weekend. Rin Pack saying the Super Draft Super Play, CJ McCollum at 100%. That was the DraftKings Super Play for some of us as well. But let's see. CJ, how are you feeling about CJ on the Super Draft rankings for you, Josh?
Numero uno.
Yeah, CJ, definitely a strong play on all the sites. And much like the rest of them, Super Draft offering a pretty good multiplier on him, which I'm loading now. 1.55x multiplier. Awesemo's top projected play by, good God, for Awesemo, the top projected play is CJ McCollum by 12 points. Let's build a lineup while we go so we can give the people just as freaking easy as possible. We are the most generous DFS hosts, I think, in the world. Both your butthole and my time. We are both generous in so many ways.
Yeah, CJ's got to be numero uno. Just no choice.
All right, CJ is in the lineup right now. He's obviously a guard on SuperDraft. He is pretty much a lock play on there, as I thought he was on all the sites. But you can definitely make an argument that he wasn't a lock play on the other sites on SuperDraft with that multiplier. And that projection just seems like a real solid play. Victor Oladipo, number 2 for Awesemo, 1.9x multiplier on there. So again, the same Victor Oladipo value curse extending to SuperDraft now. Would you have Oladipo at number 2?
I would not. He is 8th for me.
So I'm going to say let's not put Oladipo in the lineup right now then.
I would hold off for right now. But decent chance that he gets in there. He is my 4th guard, so we'll have a couple to sift through. Obviously, CJ's first, though.
Not if I've got anything to say about it. Oladipo, you stay out of my lineups, buddy. D'Angelo Russell, though, number 3, projection just behind Oladipo, despite a much smaller multiplier, 1.35x multiplier for Russell. I worry a little bit about him here, but I get the multiplier and the opportunity. I don't hate it, but I'm not dying to put him in our lineup yet. But where are you with Russell?
Start dying. D'Angelo Russell, number 3 overall.
I'll put him in as a placeholder, even though I don't necessarily feel that strongly about it. The usage is going to be there for him.
Didn't you just get done cranking it to Minnesota?
To Malik Beasley.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not as much to Russell where his price was on DraftKings, but no, I get it. The logic's there, and he's had a 44% assist rate in Minnesota without Towns so far. Very limited sample, but he's shooting a lot and assisting at a high level.
Yeah.
Julius Randle's number 4 for Awesemo, 1.45x multiplier. Where are you with Randle?
Randle is number 6 overall. He is my third forward.
I'm going to say let's put him in as a placeholder too. I feel like he gets a little bit of a boost without Peyton, I would think. And, not a guy. He's a forward guard. Where are you at, Randle? Boom, boom, boom. All right, Randle in. So right now our lineup is McCollum, Russell, and Randle, though I am watching that Russell spot to see if there's some way to get off of him. How about Jaylen Brown? I think he's a dude I loved on DraftKings, 1.6x multiplier, so kind of a comparable value play. I think he should be in the lineup.
I have him 15th.
Ooh, okay. Interesting. All right. All right, well, we can hold. He'll be another placeholder. May have to swap a lot of placeholders here, but again, we will give you guys the final lineup here. We don't do that for the main sites because you know how to build a lineup on the main sites. But for here, he's in a placeholder right now at the old. Oh, is he a forward?
He is a forward.
Oh, that's a little bit of a different. Okay, well, he's in there for a placeholder right now, but it's a little bit tougher to get to him.
That it is
interesting. Wait, why did Randle come off? Oh, okay. That was a weird UI thing. All right, so let's go to the next guy on the SuperDraft countdown here with Awesemo's projections, of course, guiding us. And then we're double checking here with Josh's projections. Zion Williamson here coming in at a 1.55x multiplier. That does seem like a pretty good multiplier for him. I think Ingram does cannibalize him a little, but not enough where I wouldn't want to take that multiplier. How do you feel about Zion?
Number 5 overall.
All right, so Zion, he's a forward on here too, I presume.
Correct.
Okay, so we are now filled at forward, but we can definitely swap some guys out if we need to. Another guard here coming up. Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell at guard, 1.5x multiplier. I think he's much more appealing on SuperDraft than the other sites, so I'd be willing to put him in.
Number 2 overall.
Oh, Donovan Mitchell night for old Joshy. All right.
Where it's at.
What if you win a ton of money today? Would you have to eat the hot chip again just to keep that momentum going?
No, I will never eat that chip again.
Even if you won $100,000?
No. Oh. I might do it for $100,000, but I wouldn't do it after I won $100,000.
I feel like if I won
I'll eat caviar or some shit.
I would probably try to mimic most of my day, and if it included a hot chip, or if it even included the hipster band Hot Chip, I feel like I would still enjoy that. Do you know Hot Chip is the band, by the way?
No, I don't listen to that kind of music.
I was going to make that reference
unless
earlier,
that's an obscure hip hop group that might show up because I accidentally liked some hip hop garbage.
No, Hot Chip is I feel like just hipster music is the best way to put it, but kind of in that a little more dancey than some of the not like Lumineers hipster, but somewhere in that spectrum.
None of that is really on my radar.
Fair enough. EMAC asking, will 1-800-EDDIE be defending his title tonight after taking down 10K on SuperDraft last night? I presume so. I've talked about it a lot. I've used Brick, our boy Brick 7.5 as a metaphor. or the I don't know, guinea pig, but he's been playing a lot in SuperDraft. A lot of the sharper players, obviously, Eddie is our tech guy behind the scenes. We've seen a lot of great tournaments or finishing really well in a lot of tournaments out there. He did win the 10K yesterday. A lot of people winning on SuperDraft. The sharper players are starting to figure out it's time to go there, but they're not all there yet. And because of the way SuperDraft works, it's your chance to win that big money up top right now. 5K up top today, so go take advantage of it. We still got only 1,400 entries out of 2,400, so there's a lot of room there, even a chance at overlay. And I don't know how to sell any harder, but I mean, Josh, you play on a bunch of different sites. I'm pretty much just Draftkings exclusive. How are you like? What's the best case here for people to get on SuperDraft? Because to me, it's just like they're giving away money every day, and I don't know.
That's the case. Like that's the case right there. You have lesser rake, sometimes zero rake, and a game that has not been quote unquote solved. Let's say, it's just going to be better for you in the long run to be getting your money into contests that are potentially showing you some overlay. And going to be at least mildly softer.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know for me, like I'm playing, like obviously the XFL stuff, I'm covering it for work, but big part of the reason why I wanted to get there was not only to know the sport like well as it's starting, and maybe that opens up some stuff for me, but it's also because like there's an edge in things that are new and things that are unfounded. And Josh has been doing a lot of work on the office hours shows, trying to figure out like what the way is to win there. And to really, as he mentioned, it's not figured out yet. And that's sort of the thing. In 3 months, it might be, but if you go in there now, there's a lot of great tournaments with a lot of overlay recently. And I don't know, like I feel like I try to be genuine when I can be. I'm not the most genuine person normally, but I feel like this is one thing where do it for yourself, do it for your bankroll. This is like the most important thing you do as a player, especially an inexperienced player. So very simple site, and we're making it about as easy as we can.
Plus, not a lot of chances to get deposit bonuses anymore. So if you can get some free cash right out of the gate, that's also pretty helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And again, they are offering $10 just for signing up. No deposit needed with the promo code Awesemo10. $20 if you deposit under $100, and $30 if you deposit over $100. So that's literally 30% of your money you could be getting back if you deposit $101 right now. And then you can use that money, play it on there, and then it's yours to keep. And if you win 10K with it or 5K with it, I mean, like the ROI, the chance for a really big ROI is there. So this is us being serious here and not just kind of whoring out, even though obviously we're doing both. Two hands. Let's see here. Apparently Seth Curry's starting hot, but I feel like that's the Slack saying that, so I don't know how genuine that actually is.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, so we got a center spot left. Looks like the centers on here that are going to be highly ranked. Is Siakam a center?
I think we should be dropping Jaylen Brown.
Should we?
I don't know. Who else? Who's the next highest forward?
So, well, here are the guys that are coming up next. Siakam and Whiteside are in this group right after Donovan Mitchell came up. And those guys are not at a Jaylen Brown. Actually, is Siakam as forward?
No, Siakam is a power forward.
Okay, so.
And I have Siakam ahead of Jaylen Brown. So how close are Siakam and Jaylen Brown to each other?
They're pretty close.
Okay.
Let's see. Siakam is at 60.23 projected SuperDraft points. Jaylen Brown 61.22. So I will swap you if you will I'll get rid of Jaylen Brown and take Siakam. If you'll get rid of D'Angelo Russell and take Malik Beasley.
No. D'Angelo Russell is third for me and for Alex. Why would we be swapping off of like a consensus play?
Because Malik Beasley is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's 10.
Yeah. That's not as good. He's 11 for me. Russell is third for me and for Alex. That's a silly play.
I cannot wait for Malik Beasley to put up 70 fantasy.
Who are our three guards? McCollum, Mitchell, and Russell?
Yep, that's it.
And that's who they should be. That's my 1, 2, 3, and that's like what 1, 2, 4 or something for Alex.
Well, sorry, some of us are trying to think for tournaments, but all right, fine. If we're just playing with the free lineup to give people money, then let's put Siakam in and we'll keep Russell in. And now we just need a center. I don't love Whiteside, honestly. I get he's got a decent multiplier, but
my top center.
Is it Gobert?
It is. Although Ibaka, and Whiteside are all real close to each other.
Ibaka 1.5x, Gobert 1.3, Jokic 1x flat. That's going to be a no. So Jokic, I'm going to rule out right now.
Agreed.
Whiteside 1.2. Home game. I feel like if we're giving people a lineup that we just want to cash, I feel like it's Whiteside. But I don't love that.
Gobert feels like a great pivot.
So, okay. So I think the chalky safe lineup to me would be McCollum, Russell, Mitchell, Siakam, Randall, Zion, Hassan Whiteside.
I agree.
I think for tournaments, I feel like we could take Whiteside out and go to Gobert or Ibaka. I do like Ibaka at his multiplier, 1.5x.
I agree. And I think that Whiteside would be the most owned of those guys too.
Yes, I firmly agree with you there. So, yeah, all right. So I guess, have you had any new findings? Obviously, the office hours you're talking about it at length, but is there anything new you've stumbled upon that you found to be worthwhile?
Haven't looked since I last looked.
Okay.
All-Star break, man. I didn't do anything but drink mimosas in New Orleans.
Mimosas are great, and I very much support that conceptually. All right. Andre Drummond, 7.5 fantasy points at 8 minutes, or in 4 minutes rather. That's fine. We'll take that.
Yeah.
He's just getting ready. He's getting loose. That's what's happened. All right. So I feel like this is the lineup: McCollum, Russell, Mitchell, Siakam, Randall, Williamson, Gobert. And then if you want to swap some guys in, I wouldn't mind going from Russell to Beasley. And Josh wouldn't mind going from Gobert to Ibaka. I mean, we both wouldn't mind that. But it seems like the core there is pretty strong with Siakam, Randall, Williamson.
So two things. One, there's still 900 spots left to get into the jump shot. So you guys really need to get the SuperDraft now and get yourselves in. This contest is almost assuredly going to overlay. You want to get in there right away. And where's Juancho Hernan-Gomez in Alex's ranks?
Ooh, interesting. Let's see.
He's a 2x multiplier.
So he's pretty low down the list, but still a 53.5 point projection. So like adjusting for randomness and all that, he's definitely in range.
He's fourth for me.
Ooh, so you have your rebound rate for Juancho for you, huh?
He's got a pretty big standard deviation, so he shows up in the top 10 scorers a lot because of that multiplier.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, Juancho 2x, probably, almost definitely the best 2x guy. There's nobody else I would even consider remotely playable at 2x on SuperDraft.
Yeah. James Johnson is 1.95, but he became immediately less interesting. Naz Reid also 1.95.
Yeah, Alex's next projected 2x guy is Tony Bradley, then Matt Thomas.
Mine's Elie Kobo, and they're all just Elie Kobo showed up in the top 10 scorers once.
Got it.
Which is wild to begin with.
Yes, if you are a person who wants to try your dart tosses at the 2x guy, it does seem like Juancho is probably the best 2xer there to go to. Anybody you feel like is going to be particularly underowned who pops up in your top 10 enough that you feel like maybe it's worth taking some stabs on?
I guess people will get to Oladipo because of that multiplier. Juancho would be that guy for sure that I think probably goes underrepresented. I don't think Gobert is going to get a lot of love given where he is on other sites and where I am. So I would say Gobert would be my favorite guy to slot in at center given the makeup, since I think Whiteside is going to be the massive chalk.
Yeah, Naz Reid projects a little bit better than Gobert for Awesemo, so he's probably, barely 0.14 better than Gobert when accounting for the multipliers. But yeah, I agree. Gobert is just a steady play, and if the other centers don't get there, or if they're just owned enough, and you get to some of the other guys who are better, I do think that makes sense.
Is it 3-point blocks?
I believe so. Yeah.
Let me look. Yeah, 3-point blocks and steals. So that fits him. That fits Gobert even more.
Yeah, especially that matchup too. The Spurs gonna throw up some shots at the rim. Certainly, you can see Gobert pick a few of those off, even though blocks always can be a bit fickle. Let's see here. See if we got any questions in the YouTube chat. John Riley pointing out the Naz Reid 1.95x. The SuperDraft have single entry $1, $3 entries. No, they have single entry, but I don't know about their price points. Let's see. They have a ton. They have a lot of the same tournaments you're going to find anywhere else. So they do have ones like that. Let's see. Got their double ups. Their and one is a 35 multi-entry. They have tournaments in the range for what you're looking for. Whoever asked that, Cody Sheridan, my bad. Someone explain why people stack the first games, because people sometimes overlook the first game, and people like seeing themselves on top of tournaments. So that's the reason why.
I mean, if you're okay with stacking any game, then you're fine with stacking the first game.
Yep, that's true. Let's see. Heard it here first. Terrence Davis drops a 40 bomb. Can someone explain office hours, please? Nate W., I'll explain it for you real fast. Our boy Josh, actually, I could the guy doing it, but I'll do it anyway. Josh does a video every Monday, I believe, for an hour, just basically talking, taking questions, sometimes with a theme. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, he was trying to figure out SuperDraft. Previously, before that, he was kind of getting his bearings SuperDraft. But Josh, what people expect from you, they sign up, become a premium member at Awesemo, and they get access to your office hours.
Yeah, I just try to take like a more concentrated effort at some sort of topic in DFS, or just, take an open set of questions. So I share my screen the entire time, similar to this, but you can see everything. We don't have to worry about any cropping or anything like that. And I just basically try to get better, try to look into things that have been puzzling me. There was one day in particular where I wasn't really happy with my player pool sizes on DraftKings, so we went through some lineup study comparable slates, tried to figure out the ranges of player pool sizes for some of the pros, and then tried to see in Fantasy Cruncher what changing the settings would do to my player pool. And that proved pretty helpful for me. I've been doing a little bit better on DraftKings as of late, and I actually binked a tournament that night.
Oh, I mean, look, it's a part of the process that basically any player should be doing, just analyzing results and looking at the things. As Josh mentioned, that kind of gets him confused or perplexed, or things you just want to figure out better and dig into. And he's doing that for all of you guys with the kind of expertise that he has. And I think it's a very helpful thing to watch. And obviously, I always enjoy Josh's content from even before we worked together, when Josh had his own YouTube channel. So it's just fun to hang out with Josh for the hour.
That's very true. Hanging out with me is always fun.
Yes, except when leaking fluids from from anywhere really, but especially current locations, one would think.
I feel okay right now. I'm going to feel a lot better when I start jamming that churro ice cream down my throat after something else that makes churro ice cream taste better.
Kendall Ford, SuperDraft double up. Who's the better play, Oladipo or Mitchell? I would favor Mitchell there.
Yeah, that's Mitchell for me.
Yeah, he's not going to let you down today. Oladipo hopefully won't for the people playing him, but yeah, I think there's a little more risk there. Also, Cody was asking about the cheapest tournaments. There's literally free tournaments on there. Granted, not the biggest prize pools, but $100 guaranteed for a free tournament on there. They have their nickel tournament with $250 guaranteed. So there are cheap tournaments on there as well. If you are a person who wants to play for cheap on SuperDraft, just get your bearings. They do a good job having some very easy ones, both the free ones and some of the other ones. But
there are 1,700 spots open in their nickel contest right now. Prize pool's $250, so you can win $25 on a nickel, but they're missing 1,700 entries. That's pretty massive. Still looking at 600 empty spots in the jump shot, so that's 4 minutes to go. Guys, that's going to be quite a bit. You guys want to do that post haste. What do they need? 2,500 or 25,000 divided by 12. 2083. Anything less than 2,083 will be basically like they're paying you to be in it, sort of. Anything under that is just reduced rake.
Yeah, at this point, we talked about it yesterday with Sal, but there have been people who've just put one lineup in. And again, we have the lineup here for you. Put in McCollum, Russell, Mitchell, Siakam, Randall, Zion, and Rudy Gobert. Yeah. So that's McCollum, Russell, Mitchell, Siakam, Julius Randle, Zion Williamson, Rudy Gobert. Decent chance that one, if it does.
Well, then just make one pivot off of that, so you can be slightly different,
Yeah. If you literally just want to cash today, if for some reason you are low $5, you just need to cash, I think that lineup will cash. If you want to put in a couple, pivot off one or two spots, and you're good to go. The centers we talked about, there's a lot of easy pivots to make there. But go to superdraft.io. Again, use that promo code AWESEMO10, AWESEMO10. Get $10 free with no deposit, or get $20 of deposit of less than $100, $30 of deposit of more than $100. So it's a tiered deposit bonus system. And as Josh mentioned earlier, DraftKings, FanDuel, they're not offering that. I don't mean to point my finger at them, but they have you guys. They know they have you by the nard. SuperDraft wants to get you in there, so go take advantage of it and take their deposit bonuses. This guy Exumian doing like I know you know this from Japanese pro wrestling. He's capitalizing cancer in the premium Slack like he's a Japanese bad guy in pro wrestling.
Kenta.
Yeah, cancer will do well. Okay, well, will he? We'll see. It's hard to do well when you got like 14 minutes a game.
Ooh, my stomach feels warm.
3 minutes left, Josh. Then you are free to put things in, take things out as you need to.
Mm-hmm. I get it. 1964 in there, so it's picking up a little bit.
I think our impassioned pleas are really paying dividends for the folks out there.
As it should. What does that
Drummond,
mean?
man. Drummond, do something. I feel like the meme. I just want to poke him with something and make him more active. I swear to God, if Tristan Thompson goes off again today, I won't affect anything really, but I'll be sad. Just know I'll be sad somewhere out there. DA24 asking, how do you and Josh Engelman feel about Royce O'Neal as a pivot from the cheap Portland chalk? If we're talking about Simons, I would definitely rather have Simons, but I mean, Royce he's fine. He's just, what's his upside really?
No interest in Royce.
What do you think's Royce O'Neal's ceiling? Like 25?
Not a lot. I mean, he's like, I like him in real basketball. I don't like him in DFS.
Yeah. He's one of those dudes, great wing defense. I mean, if you're gonna compete against James Harden in the playoffs, he's the guy you probably want to throw at him. Yeah. But yeah, just like he just kind of goes around the court, doesn't care about his stats, which is great stuff. But fantasy wise, a little tough. I'd rather have Simons for sure. Let's see, anything good YouTube chat? Looking at you, Ish triple double night. Cody Sheridan, thank you, fellas. Thank you, Cody. Good job trying out SuperDraft. That is a good move for you. Is stacking NBA DFS statistically proven as NFL? Braxton asks. No, it is not.
No, it is not.
No value to stacking for the most part, other than a game that goes to overtime, and that's like literally throw a dart in the air, and if the dart hits you in the eye, then you had the same amount of chance of guessing an overtime game.
How much time?
But don't throw darts in the air. Generally, that's probably not a good move.
30 seconds, guys. Up to 2,060. So there's going to still be, what did I say they needed? 2083. Yeah, so this is going to be essentially a rake-free contest.
Yep. So no rake. Again, we've talked about that with some of the other sites. Not paying rake helps you out quite a bit, but it's still a nice situation for you guys to get in there. And it does to be prepared. Like, get your sign up in, start playing these tournaments every day, because there are some days where we don't have the show, or where we don't have the extra half-hour show, or where they just overlay because people don't want to play for whatever reason that day. So I don't know, just a wise move to be on SuperDraft right now using that promo code Awesemo10. Again, $10 for no deposit, $20 if you deposit less than 100, and $30 if you deposit more than 100. And we are locked. Whether you are on SuperDraft or anywhere else, we are locked. Josh, anything you want to say here before we call it quits?
No, I want to put this day to bed, man.
Josh needs to go heal. Watch the XFL strategy show. Me and Sal Vetri did it earlier today. It's on the YouTube channel right now. Check it out. Just go to the channel page and see it. And of course, subscribe, hit that notification bell to know whenever we go live. Lots of great content coming out today that our own Josh has suffered for. So we appreciate you guys sticking with us. Be back. I'll be back, and Josh will be back. I don't know when you'll be back. I'll be back Monday.
I'll be back Sunday.
Josh will be back Sunday. Fast Eddie Fear and EMAC coming up this weekend. Lots of content coming. So we appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend. See you guys again soon. Good luck.